Hear you, come one and all. The Cedar Falls City Council session number 5 of the goal setting for 2023, December 20, is now in session.
Looks like there was a call in the background. Okay.
And it looks like we have Mayor-elect going to have a few words for us.
Yeah, I'll have a few words for us. One, we know with this being the last session, we did want to take a second just to help kind of encapsulate the night, because there are a few things that we want to make sure we get a chance to do at the end for kind of getting everything for Q1 this year scheduled, or at least tentatively looking at what are all the work sessions we have, what do we want to make sure and cover first. So later on, we'll have a slide that kind of has all of our meeting dates coming up for the first quarter. Staff kind of put together what are all the things they know for CIP, budgeting, and other things that we'll need to cover. But so that way we can start making sure we at least get some next steps filled in for the first quarter. Amy, did you want to kind of go through some of that opening slide here of?
Yeah. So just to recap, we're in the current goal setting process, and so tonight we want to be able to complete goal 4, and at the end, as we were doing with the rest of them, at the end of goal 4, just do another check to see is there something that has not come up in what's been named, and then same with goal 5. So we'll go through what's already in the document, as well as, again, that first night was a chance for you to get some things out that gave the staff an opportunity to look and see, but as you pointed out too, there might be some other things that come up that you've thought of, so we'll also do a check at the end of goal 5 to make sure we've captured under each of those goals additional items that you might have. And then it's going to be tight, but we'd like to be able to be done with that by 6:30 so that we have that last half hour to be checking back in with you about all the work sessions that you've named, timing that, so that you also have a sense of, not just a sense of, but we have some concreteness around the next steps and what's happening next, and prioritizing some of those pieces. So this is going to be a dance tonight with Mayor-elect and Ron and myself, continue to really check in with you around what conversations do you need to be having tonight, and do we need to get to the clarity that we need for tonight so we can keep moving and have the overall framing that you want to have. So we'll just be pushing you a little bit more on that and checking with you around that dance with timing, but having the space that you need to name the things that you need to name. So that is where we're at with the process for tonight. Anything else about that, Ron or Mayor, that you want to refer to? Then
and I can kind of cover this. This, I think, we'll maybe at the end kind of come back to this if we can. These were so far some of the things I know from my end that I've committed to taking on for some of the mayor commitments and responsibilities. So when we get to the end and we start looking at mapping out everything, I'll come back to this and just see if there's anything else that are things that I can keep in mind that we didn't get a chance to cover, or anything else that you'd like to make sure I keep in mind as we go through everything. Yeah. So otherwise, any questions or thoughts or other things you'd like to do differently?
Just a question on the current packet that's handed out tonight. It differs obviously from the other ones. Is that just cleaned up to where we are to date with the previous goals?
So the current packet, yes, the current packet is, when we talked about prepping for tonight, we thought it would be, thank you for reminding about that, what you have in front of you. We thought it'd be helpful for you to see what all has been captured to date. So up to just getting into goal 4 where we ended. So that is in this, so you have all of them together in this document. And I think, what else, is there anything else here in front of them that we need to refer to right now, or will that happen?
So I think some of it will happen as we go.
Okay.
I guess if we are going to talk about one thing, it would be probably these 2 documents. This is the updated CIP right now. So this has, we think it's pretty close. This will be the document that you see coming before you on the first council meeting, January 2nd. Now, obviously, it can change. There can be some things change. I'll just use one example. We already know one thing. Chase has been working very closely with the DOT and on the First and Union, and the DOT is amenable to some very more permanent improvements at that intersection. And so at some point, we're going to get that incorporated into this. But right now, I don't know that there could be changes between January 2nd and what is it, the 16th is where we would actually hold a public hearing for adoption. So, but as part of the reason for passing it out now is so as you can review and start looking at those and seeing where there may be some things yet tonight. One in particular that I know we wanted to come back to that we'll see towards the end is the Unidome conversation and what the funding would be in that. So that may be another thing that may change. So.
And again, just we've been keeping track of what you had named for work sessions and meetings, so again, we'll come back to that at the end, but just, again, wanting to give you visuals to what we're tracking on throughout these meetings.
Okay. And then, did you want to?
And we'll cover this at the end. We start, but just to let you know, this is what we'll be working on, is making sure these on there right now are some of the topics that council knows that we have coming up, or excuse me, staff, that we'll have to talk about sometime in the first quarter. So we'll be looking at a lot of these and starting to fit in where we want to make sure we get certain work sessions in. So we'll get a full list together, put it together at the end. But then just so you know, that'll be kind of what we're looking to do at the end with that last 30 minutes is make sure we've got a sense of what we want to cover the first quarter this year.
I'm working on getting it down and documented so you can really see it in front of you. So. Okay. All right, so that's the context setting, and if there are any questions or comments about that, we'll turn it over to you, Ron.
Okay. So, oops, I wish I wouldn't have done it that way. So I gotta fast forward here a little bit. So. 66. Oh, why is it doing that? Well, do it the long way. Well, thanks everyone for coming again. So
We'll small talk.
yeah, just talk amongst yourselves. So I went by it here a little bit. So. Right here. So here's where we left off last time. We'll talk, maybe go through a lot of these things. I think for the rest of the time, we should be able to get through it in rather short order. There's going to be a number of the slides, a number of the projects that you see in front of you that are mainly maybe more for newly elected, just because they're projects that are bigger projects that are in the works, and we can talk about, are there interest in continuing with them, or, any history that we might want to go through. So I'll just kind of jump into the slides here, and we can kind of talk as we go again. And then Amy will obviously keep up again. Maybe just a real quick reminder, green that we have highlighted were mentioned by elected officials, and the yellow is things that we have slides for. And if there's any red, it's just obviously red or blue, I think. There's just editing, some potential editing. So one of the things that we want to talk a little bit about is this neighborhood traffic management policy. And so done some research, and this is actually a policy that, every year you have somebody that will come before you with regard to if it's a speed trailer, a speed study analysis, or traffic calming, or some of those. And what we've noticed, and I'll kind of go forward a little bit here, is we've done some research with other communities, and they've developed a neighborhood traffic management plan or program. And it's really, so instead of trying to put council members on the spot about a really passionate project, or debating about a stop sign and should we put one in or shouldn't we? This neighborhood traffic management plan that these other communities have developed is really a plan that says, hey, here's the criteria for this and here's the criteria for some of these things. And so what staff would like to do, if the council's all right with it, is develop what we think is and kind of stealing from some of the communities like Waukee, Des Moines, Clyde, and Iowa City, and moving forward with a development of that neighborhood traffic plan. That way, if we come into something where traffic calming, it would meet the criteria for a neighborhood for traffic calming, then we could go ahead and bring that forward. Or if it meets a criteria for a speed study, or if a speed study is initiated and we find out, hey, there needs to be something changed within the ordinance, bring that forward and be able to provide criteria. But there's also things that the residents would be required of. So you don't get one resident that comes forward and say, hey, I think I want no parking on my street. Well, when we send out the surveyor, you go do the other part of the survey, everybody else says, we like parking on our street. And so we're not overreacting for one particular resident. So we'd like to move forward and develop this and bring that forward for, obviously council would have the approval on the policy and we could move forward there. This is one that's it's going to involve a lot of different departments. It's going to include planning, engineering, and the police divisions as well. And so again, kind of copying what some of these other communities have done.
So you're wanting to hear if they see that as
Yes.
that being in the plan?
Is this something you'd like to see moving forward, or I know I've given you a vague description, but.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, sir.
Does that include maybe, obviously you want to have the guidelines about what thresholds have to be met for particular action to be taken. Does it also include sort of a streamlined process for residents to bring that to the city? I can envision a web portal or something like that.
Yeah, I think there's a number of different avenues that they could do,
Right.
And bring those forward. Yeah.
Okay.
And then we can, instead of the process is a little bit cumbersome now. So if somebody comes forward and they say, hey, we'd like you to look at our street, well, typically what we'll do is go to the city council and they'll refer that to a committee meeting, and then we'll start gathering the data. Here, it would streamline that and say, hey, we have a management program that we'd like to do and move that forward quicker.
Does this include anything for being proactive about which areas we know are issues and are looking to do traffic calming needs for, or is this just kind of the process for managing requests?
This would actually kind of identify the process. Yes, sir.
I know quite often we look at cities in Iowa, but what about going into other states?
But we can definitely do that and start looking at others. These were just the easy, quick ones that we knew of. Actually, some of the consultants we work with suggested these ones. That's how they got. So, yeah, we can do more research on that. So,
As long as it's helping us be responsive and it isn't a policy that we can point to say, here, we don't do that anymore. I'm good with it.
no, I think it really would outline the criteria of why you
How
would
to
do
streamline
something.
it. Yeah, good.
So check with everyone? All right. Thank you.
The next slide really was affordable housing, and it is really what is it, 4C, 6, B, C, and F that were identified in the goal document. And really it talks about the housing needs assessment and our review of them. So the Housing Commission actually suggested that we look at a number of things that came out of actually the housing needs assessment. Like, so for instance, we have a number of bullet points here that talk about reviewing zoning and subdivision and building codes, zoning reforms to promote a mixture of housing, incentives or require for universal design. So all of these things were really identified in the housing needs. Now, this is something that we think that the Housing Commission should work on, but these were also identified as some of the things that they would like to prioritize moving forward. So, one of the things that we want to note too is when you start talking about some of the, whether it's subdivision codes or building codes, those are the minimum qualifications. So when you look at those, we've heard things on both sides, whether it's, hey, we want this to look nicer, or boy, that construction doesn't seem like it's sturdy. Well, the building codes are international building codes. They're vetted by a lot of professionals, and so they're very good, but you also have to realize that's the minimum standard. So some builders go above and beyond, some do not.
So Ron, what would the requiring a universal design entail?
So I think that's what we talked about a couple of years ago when there was actually some universal designs that could be out there. So people that were looking to create something would be more affordable. So there's plans that are readily available. And, I think there's probably a number of different ways that you could do that and look at,
Well,
at
I
some
don't
of those.
mind that idea, but when it says require, that's what I don't.
Incentivize
get
or
to.
require.
Or require universal design. Yeah,
So, I mean, you can have options out there. I mean, you can Google house plans all day long, rather economical. And we had a discussion about that where we were going to have a book of house designs or something like that, and we turned it down because you can Google them, and then your architect's going to update them anyway.
yeah,
That's why I just want
I
to
would agree.
require. means-
Require would not be something I would recommend, because then you end up with the same 5 or 6 house designs in a 40-acre neighborhood.
But I think the thought, recalling that same conversation from the folks that spoke at the meeting, was not all developers or home builders, depending on their size, or I guess maybe how established they are, or maybe I'm explaining that wrong, but having something available for them to go off of so that they can provide housing can be very beneficial for them to get the product is.
You Google it, it's there.
Well,
Well,
I think
don't-
I think the incentivizing part is that we would have these plans, then a developer could access them, and they would be pre-approved. So that when we see an empty lot, it fits the rules, you're good to go.
Yes.
So I don't think you can Google good to go. I think we got to pay for that. So, is this on our list of work sessions?
No, yeah, I don't think.
It is not
Not for
currently.
this specifically.
I think, there's probably a lot of other entities that could lend a hand in some of these things. I think we've heard from people who are willing to contribute and offer, various ideas on how we could better utilize the assessment and, make changes to different things. So I would be in favor of having some kind of work session and maybe inviting some of those entities to come forward with their suggestions or how they would like to partner with us so we could explore those options.
This could also be a joint work session with the Housing Commission.
Yeah, yeah.
That's not a bad
I
idea.
think what we looked at before was fully funding that kind of pre-approved book of plans. People are certainly free to go outside that if they don't want the cookie cutter home, but
Totally.
it is a way to incentivize. I think maybe a middle ground would be work with the Housing Commission and other entities, builders in particular, that might say, hey, we'll foot this much of the bill, would you partner with us? Because we're going to develop your tax base.
Yeah.
I think we'd be good with that.
And I think that's just
Look at it again.
one part of all of these.
Is that something
again,
you
that
guys had
required
talked
has to be
through
done.
previously, though?
Yeah,
What?
we had
Was that
30
something-
to 35,000, I can't remember what.
It's
It
in the
was in
CIP
the
for-
CIP last
Okay.
year that we got rid of.
Yeah.
It was somewhere close to 50 or 60 grand, but it was like 3 or 4 different lot types. So you could build cottage homes, you could build duplex. Here's the ones that are pre-approved if you don't want to pay for the designs.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I know, like, on some of the vision plans, they're like the infill areas are identified, so it might be good to kind of look at those again and, maybe expand our search for the areas in town that we have infill opportunities. And, I just think there's this is a lot deeper than, you know, just us saying, yeah, let's do it. Like, I think we need to explore a lot more of the options.
I have,
Can I just confirm though, like this, so this slide is what the Housing Commission recommended, but it's different than what's in the document?
My understanding is this is what the Housing Commission recommended from the housing needs assessment to prioritize out of those large number of items that were in there.
so I have a question. And I'm not saying I'm for discussions, I'm not anti-work sessions. This is my concern though. When we say we want work sessions, and I guess this is kind of I need a reminder as to, you know, because we're trying to build the CIP and we're trying to build the budget. So when we say we want a work session, obviously we are not going to have all the work sessions in time to make a budget. If we say we want a work session on this, we don't want to prioritize this at this time other than having a work session, then am I wrong in thinking that, well, then that will not be, there's no chance that'll be on fiscal year 2025's budget? Am I wrong in thinking that?
Well, it depends on what the council wants to do with regard to the budget. Maybe the message that you send, and I'm thinking on my feet here, but is that, hey, Housing Commission, we'd like you to narrow this list down a little bit more and prioritize what initiatives do you want to take from this as well.
Or
And
detail
that's
out those things.
Yes, and
I mean,
that,
why is the word require in there? You know, I mean, that's a red flag.
And
I think that's probably taken right out of the
The
document.
recommendation.
one of the risks last time, Kelly, I think, was there was like a list of plan samples that might have come from research from other entities. I think the hesitancy was, what if we don't what if we don't have anybody wanting to build those types? Have we wasted our 10 grand on that design model? So it'd be great if we did have more feedback from, say, the Housing Commission or developers that say, I'm looking to build these types of things for my buyers, but I don't have any plans and I don't want to put the money into it. If we knew what building types from that sample, I think I'd be way more agreeable to say, yeah, let's get them pre-approved and incentivize it.
So I remember the conversation, and I'm not, that's fine, but we did have experts in front of us telling us that this was important. So that's fine, but when we have a discussion, I think we need to be open to listening to the folks that actually do this type of work.
And
That's who, Bob Manning was there as the representative of the Home Builders Association, was very, and it was, I think it was $35,000 is what was in the CIP, very professionally said, this is incredibly important, and we did not come to a consensus that it was important for us, so.
I think what I did, I Googled online and I found dramatically cheaper plans online. Just
all
told-
about the Google.
Well, kind of going to what Hannah was saying, I think it's not just the plans though, it's also, we have to have an approval. We have to go through a process to make
Right.
sure we have pre-approved
Right.
those plans and,
And
Yeah.
that's done by architects and there's a fee to that. And
So back to Kelly's question, to me, looking over this, I think there are several things that don't require a budget. And so while I definitely would be for finding a way to get those budgeted items into this year's budget, I think if the choice is either to put the money in or not, like either we're putting the money in and like we can proceed or we can't proceed, like I think I would rather just focus on the things like establishing a committee to discuss and review local development regulations, and then maybe we can get like a better understanding again of what entities are out there that want to partner with us that potentially have their own funding that would be willing to like take on some of these pieces of this. And I think if then at that point we can say, okay, we must be the funders of this piece, then we look at that and make sure we prioritize that for next year.
This is the way I think about the budget too, and I just have to say it out loud. The budget does not mean we're going to spend that money. We just know that we've allocated there. So if we were agreeable to it, then it's like, okay, yep, we have that sitting there and we can proceed. I kind of am getting, we've been kicking cans down the road, and I feel like we're putting us it feels like we're getting behind because we keep kicking cans down the road. And it's not to say that we make rash decisions, because I don't think anything in this realm moves quickly unless obviously it needs to. And I like that. But like, if we don't even have it earmarked, it's just, then obviously it's just like anybody else's budget. Well, it's like, well, we don't have the money for it now, so we can't. I mean, I appreciate all those things. It's just, obviously housing, that's not we all hear about housing, and the whole, we have the code. The code is the bare minimum, so people will reach out constantly to you about different concerns. There are different remodels going in. There's a hotel that's being remodeled right now into a senior living place. I guess the concern I have is, does the code tell the story of what our citizens expect in a facility? You know what I mean? I don't think that I'm saying that correctly, but like, do we want to have like things that maybe aren't up to, I don't know, different things. Like, okay, for instance, we've talked about like greenery and trees that are required. Well, I mean, that's why I think it's so important to make sure we're looking and possibly funding things that can update our code, so that when we get those concerns from citizens, or we ourselves have concerns, or that we do have, the code reflects what we want. You know what I mean? Because the code is the bare minimum, and sometimes Ron's right. You'll have developers that will go above and beyond the code, but then you have folks, they're not going to go above and beyond, and that's fine. But then, do we make sure that there is a ground floor of, yep, we're cool with that, Otherwise, there's nothing we can say to it, right? Because it's the law of Cedar Falls, I guess, is what I'm saying.
We have a ground floor of the International Building Codes, and that's what many of the communities in the area use as their benchmark to work from. And then if there's anything they want to go above and beyond that, then they come to councils, or they
That's
ask.
what I'm talking about, Daryl. They've come to me, and so now I'm voicing that and making sure the group hears that.
Well, it seems like for tonight, for this piece though, are we, because I think we all, just from talking to everyone, we know housing's an issue, and we know we need to get moving on it. Do we want to maybe at least give some direction to look at allocating some budget, knowing we'll end up approving what it is, but go ahead, Aaron.
To Hannah's point, and I think also Kelly's point about, what's this mean for fiscal year 25, the budgeting process. I agree, Hannah, that not all those things are going to require money. We can look at them without money. So why don't we narrow down those things that maybe will require budget money? Tell me if
See
I'm
what that
wrong.
costs, yeah.
And then if we all are in favor of prioritizing that to make sure that we're having included in fiscal year 25, then we can know what needs to be allocated for what and reach an agreement for next year's budget.
We wouldn't be able to do that tonight, though.
No.
Yeah, not tonight,
No.
but maybe we give direction to staff to come back with which of these are things that require budget, and a recommendation on what we would need to budget there.
Between
To
now and
Yes.
April 30th or 15th, or whatever the budget
Mhm.
deadline is.
Has to be before that.
Way before that.
Oh, yeah, because I think,
You-
but have it ready for getting in that budget.
Yeah. Is that reasonable? Is that a
I think so. I
reasonable request?
think, it may be very general. What we come up with is for a dollar figure, and I'm just making this up. This is just pulling it out of the sky. But, for housing need assessment implementation, there's $20,000. Just made that up, pulled it out. But if I talk to the other staff, and we think that it can be in a general bucket like that, so if any of these do come up that throughout the course of the next 18 months that there needs to be monies allocated to, it's there.
I love that. I think it's also,
I'd be for that.
yeah.
So a work session, a joint work session with the Housing Commission, and a line item for general housing needs assessment funding to be determined at a later date what that could go to.
We already have a starting to have kind of a heavy work session schedule, so we have to juggle that up on the calendar and put that at the beginning and try to get it this week.
Well, I would suggest this is maybe what the charge is, going back to the Housing Commission, is, hey, you guys dig into these a little bit more for our work session. And my guess is this is probably going to be a couple
Prioritizing.
months. Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Non-revenue costing and budget costing.
And I would ask for maybe a prioritization of one of those things. So if you have a list of 3 that you determine are going to be budget ones, or maybe instead, I know you're talking about generally kind of bottom line, but if the
For
housing-
them,
if the
yeah.
committee has a prioritization, so this is the one we need to focus on first, then we could allocate the money for fiscal year 25 and then think about it.
And their priority may be something that's like review the zoning, subdivision, and building codes. You know, that may not be a dollar figure.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So,
cool.
Okay.
I
Good
love
enough?
that.
So when we're talking about all these work sessions, we're not going to have any more committee meetings? Or are we going to have work sessions that become committee meetings and then they become council meetings?
So the quick general layout of the meetings, work sessions, you don't actually do anything. It's just for consensus building. You're not actually making a referral. You're not making an action from them. We would still need, if we wanted to put something on the agenda for the council, either just at some point an official referral from the council, or if we did it at a committee meeting. So there will still be committee meetings, but the work sessions are those bigger topics where we know we just need time to dig in and get some more education and feedback on it. The committees would be more of, okay, and now are we deliberating some sort of recommendation we want to make to the,
Code change or additions,
yep.
money allocations, but are we going to do those before or in lieu of committee meetings? 'Cause-
To be seen as we,
it may depend on the topic.
Mhm.
And the way
Right.
I see it, and you guys are the elected officials, but the way I see it is it would be, you know, if it's something that you guys want to roll up your sleeves and really discuss informally, that's going to be more of a work session. If it's like the CIP where the staff is presenting a little bit more, it's probably going to be more of a committee meeting.
Right, but what I'm wondering, it's still going to be on every other Monday.
Yeah.
It's not going to be Wednesdays and Thursdays or Fridays. Yeah, okay.
Mhm, yep.
Good.
Okay, so go into College Hill Economic Development, and this is really aimed towards the parking. And this is goal 4C8A, and it's really carry out the recommendations of College Hill parking study. And really, these are the recommendations that were carried out just generally. And so part of the conversation is, you know, can we get rid of this goal, or is there something further that we would like to see with regard to College Hill parking? Now, if anything moves forward on the visioning plan and turning that into to code, there may be some changes with parking or a number of things that could come out of that as well.
but that's
Use the
separate than
words,
this.
Parking management program, I think is the term they use, which usually equates to things like resident-only parking, where we have that. That's, you're saying beyond this?
So right now, there is the parking study that happened, and what came out of the parking study, and these are just a few of the changes that have happened, the recommendations, and they've been implemented for a couple of years now. Seems to be going fairly well. You know, parking is never a finished thing, but
Right?
so right now it's the goal in here was carry out the recommendations of College Hill parking study, and so the question is that still a goal? Is there still other things that the council wants to see, or are you looking? Is this one that we can remove for the time being?
This is only part of what's been completed.
Or part of what was in the plan.
Yeah, I mean, it was, I don't know how many pages it was, but implementing a parking management program, resident-only parking, that's a significant thing that should be looked at.
Kelly, did you have something?
I'm okay with this being gone. I don't see the parking problem that others see, so I see the lack of people parking up there.
Because I think my thought was when I first read it is, we'll probably talk about this when we talk about all the other College Hill stuff with the vision plan, so.
These
Just-
two items here could be removed, but there's still many more to be involved with additional construction and how it will affect parking and.
Which I think would, like what Danny is saying, would tie into
Yeah.
the vision
Yeah.
plan.
Yep,
So, yeah, I would be in favor of removing these as goals.
It doesn't need to be a separate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the next item here,
Did you have any thoughts, Dustin?
Removing A and B, is that what we're saying?
so A was this, and B was, B was actually the continue to enact the College Hill Urban Revitalization Plan. And that was identified by council member we don't really have. So I think parking, I think we're good on, is what I heard.
So we're removing this?
That's what I'm
Remove-
trying to.
A.
crystal
Removing-
clear clarity.
Removing
A.
8A.
Right.
Say that again, Ron, which one?
And leaving B.
And so B, and I'm not trying to get further discussion on every single topic, it's unnecessary, but the parking study was a 2019 document, the revitalization plan was a 2012 document. We now have the vision plan that we're going to be discussing. Should we change that wording to say, intentionally discuss whatever we're going to do with the College Hill vision plan and take items out of it? Because that's much more recent and relevant in my mind than a 2012 document.
So, but totally separate though.
Okay.
So, parking was a study that we did, and I think, the study is this.
That's what I'm saying. A is different than B?
B is,
Did we
B
just
is, so you should have a handout, looks very much like this in your documents. And, so the urban revitalization plan really gets into, you know, the boundary up there, within there, and how do we, help revitalize that. And so,
And I'm just getting clarity on, we're leaving, continue to enact the revitalization plan.
Yes.
We're only striking A.
so that would have been my page 2 here.
Okay.
That's what's confusing, because what we have in front of us is not this. So the A, B,
Yes, it is.
Ron, you're referencing this.
What was handed out
Yes.
tonight isn't, that's my
this right
problem.
here. So the A, what is A,
Oh.
what is B? So
I'm
if
looking at
not
the last
saying A and B,
Oh,
we can say,
yeah.
you're in agreement about
To remove.
striking out, carry out the recommendations of College Hill.
Yes.
And now, Ron, you're saying you're going to address what is continue to enact?
Well, I'm still going off the document I had from last time for my note, so.
Okay.
So on that, it's 8A and B. And so B is really the College Hill Economic Development Plan, or the Urban Revitalization Plan. And again, you have this as a handout in front of you. This document served us very well over the years with revitalization. And if you look on, it would be page 2 of the actual revitalization plan. There's a page on there that actually talks about the plan objectives. Just reduce the presence of deteriorated residential use of structures, preservation of restoration of historical housing, including creation of upper story and commercial, encourage revitalization. So there's a number of those bullet points. We can go into those, but and really, staff didn't have that highlighted. This was highlighted by an elected official, and I don't know if it was just to say, yes, keep it, or, hey, I want to talk about it.
Ron, I think, you know, when people were looking for the handout, it was if they would have brought their packet from last time, like we didn't make all the, but I brought a couple
Yeah.
extras.
I'll share off Hannah's, Jen. I screwed
Okay.
up. I'm sorry.
You got one? Anyone else need one? I just brought a couple extras. Okay.
So are we asking if we should keep those in?
What's that?
Are we asking if we should keep that in?
Well, the whole document, the
Yeah.
document
Yeah.
was adopted by resolution back in, and this is how, you know, when you talk about this, you know, sometimes it's interchangeable a little bit with TIF and some of those things, but this
Yeah.
is really where that came from, so,
Yeah.
There's
So
still something we're working off of?
yes.
Yeah, sounds
Okay.
relevant.
I highlighted this because I know that there's been several neighbors that have used this kind of process to remedy different things with their homes or whatever, and that it's been successful. And I think it is a good kind of map for us when we start to look at other areas, you know, how we can reference this since it is an older document on, you know, what success we've seen using it. That's all.
One in favor,
Okay.
McKinney,
Yeah.
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 So continue to enact College Hill urbanization plan. We have that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the real quick question, CFD 1852, that's our new Dewey Decimal System for the
Yes, sir.
city functions? Okay. City stuff. Stuff's in it.
So the next next item is, I don't know what the new one says, but mine is 9A. Continue to support the development of commercial uses in the northeast corner of Lone Tree Center Street at the Lone Tree interchange. So I don't know if anybody here had marked this.
Is that-
I'm guessing Gil did.
Yeah, probably Gil. I'm guessing he was in support of it.
That's what I would think as well. But
Is that the Dollar General corner that I'm thinking?
I think so.
And further developing around it, I'm assuming?
Yeah, the challenge really there is, one is a couple of years ago, Stephanie and I met with 4 or 5, 6 developers to see if they were interested in that area, and you know, there was maybe some lukewarm interest in developing there, but the challenge is that you have to have a willing seller as well, and I think
A farmer that doesn't want to sell?
doesn't, and if Mark Miller was you know, actively doing that as the council rep in that area for many years, and so it's kind of a balance. So I'm assuming everybody's supportive of that.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna go to 10B now, which is 4C 10B, which is explore all options to building a downtown parking structure in conjunction with the feasibility study and continual reevaluation of paid parking. So, as many of you remember, here recently, we had a parking study contract. So we have a consultant on board that's looking now at potentially a parking ramp in the downtown area. This has obviously been talked about and re-talked about and study and some of this. So really, the goal of this particular study is to look in the downtown area, is what is the need? Is there a need for a parking structure? So that's the first thing. What's the capacity and volume of parking structure? They've been out and they've been performing their traffic counts, and so you know, it's the conversation is, when is the right time or the wrong time to do traffic counts? You know, so they agreed. You know, December 7th through the 9th is going to be a time that may be a little bit busier because of the downtown, but is it as busy as the first week in June with Sturgis Falls or some of those things? So I think this is going to be give you a snapshot in time, but I also think it's going to be relatively accurate. So we're going to continue moving forward with the consultant looking at those numbers, and they're going to have some public open houses and a number of things, but they're going to come back to you with, hey, do we need a parking structure? Is there a reason to create more parking, and what do they think that is? And and they're going to be looking at, not only is there a need right now, but is there future need for development? So if there's a developmental need for, hey, we see potential in this part of the downtown or this part of the downtown that these properties could redevelop, and some of those could redevelop very quickly, or they may never redevelop. So, so they're going to look at those potentials, and then they'll look at a location. Hey, if they do find a need, what part of the downtown? Because obviously, if you put something in the 500 block, people in the 100 block may not think that it's, you know, beneficial. And then, is there a rate structure or anything like that within the downtown area, or what would that be? If you talk about parking, everything I've ever read about parking structures are that it's got to be the cheapest. In order to get people to drive to the third story it's got to be cheaper than the spot that's right in front of the store they want to go to. So, having said that, everything else that I've ever read about parking structures is that you'll never recoup the dollars through the fees you're going to charge. So really what you're hoping to do is recoup the operating expenses, ongoing maintenance and operating expenses. So that's why I believe TIF dollars, using the tax dollars from the downtown businesses that would benefit from this, would actually be the proper funding source. But having said all of that, you know, there's going to be, just very candidly, people are going to already have their opinions. So,
Well, there's lots of variations of the parking ramp idea, whether you sell
Understatement
condo
of the
shares
year.
of it, put a hotel into it, lots of parking. That was a big discussion that's been happening.
and I think right now we're concentrating just on the parking aspect of it. If we decide that, if this group decides that, yes, we want to move forward with a parking structure, then we can start talking about, okay, what does that look like? Is there condos on top? Is there retail on the bottom?
Basement, subterranean.
Yeah, what, all of those type of things. But what's the actual need is the first step. Is there a need? So I don't know what we would do with this right now. I think part of it is just an update of where we are. If you actually look at the dates here coming up, we're looking to report back to, I think some of you have actually been contacted by the consultant already to talk about it, but yeah, they're going to be presenting a report in March, and once you have the data, I think the council's going to have some tough decisions.
Love tough decisions.
Questions,
It's ongoing
concerns?
anyway, so it's.
So we're just, at
Yeah.
this point, we're just agreeing, we're waiting for the finding.
I think so. It's more of an update, and if there's other questions,
Yeah.
we
Take
get.
it off page.
Yeah, if I get 4 of those, I'll cancel the contract.
Because you guys don't need any, like, there's nothing really we can do at this point, budgeting wise or anything. We're just gonna wait for this and then we'll start talking through it then.
Yeah, Jen, what did we have in the?
No, we put like a $20 million, we would say, for a parking structure, I think is what we have.
It's in the unfunded or the unplanned CIP.
Waiting for the report, so we haven't really put it on the CIP until one, we know we need it, and if we need it, is that what council wants to go forward with, so.
So once they determine, let's just hypothetically say, yes, we need a parking structure, and we need it in this general location. Well, I think that's going to be the next is securing the property for that. Or maybe the city already owns property in that location. So I think that would be the first step. The second step or third step would probably then be start the design and the talk of aesthetics, use, all of those type of things.
Okay.
I'd be curious on a social experiment just to see who thinks we need and who thinks we won't need, and then see what happens when we get the data back.
And close your eyes.
I'm still more of an opinion that the structure should be a multi-use with retail,
Well, that-
condos in it. I mean, that changes the thumb up or thumb down.
But first we need to figure out if we need one. That is this discussion.
That's-
If we need one.
If we need just a parking ramp, many people say probably not, because then we gotta divert a lot of TIF dollars to it.
Unless you
If
go
we-
downtown and
if
talk to a business
we put retail
owner.
in it on the main floor and put housing on the top, and what
That's
we.
not a thumb. No, that-
All right, let's move on. We're just talking the talk at this point.
I had an hour and a half conversation with the.
I think
Do you
we're,
have what you need on this?
I think we are good.
Yeah, we'll get the data back.
All right.
Some council members know about this particular project. This is one that's a little bit ongoing, maybe dragging on a little bit longer than we've liked, but this probably has been going on for about 20 years. South Main Street, you kind of see right down on the bottom part here is Green Hill Road, here's South Main Street. These homes all along this side are do not have access to sanitary sewer. Some of them are experiencing some pretty challenging times with their septic, and so we're moving forward under design with AACOM is the sanitary sewer. This will we'll be purchasing the property for easements going across all of those backyards from each of the property owners, and then we'll be moving forward with regard to construction of the cost. And what the council's kind of not formally agreed to, but it was, hey, here, allowing these people to hook up with a tapping fee and then paying that over an assessment on their properties. So 18 properties involved as we move forward. Again, kind of an update here. There's going to be a lot of these now that are just maybe updates.
Are
So
they all good with that?
yeah, is everybody good to continue
No, I
with
mean,
that?
South Main people, are they good with that?
So, yes and no. So Chase had a design all the way down, they had everything, everybody's gonna donate, it was gonna decrease some of the cost, and then a couple of them backed out. And so now we're moving forward, as we discussed last year, moving forward with the design, and if we have to go to condemnation on one or two of them, because if you're right in the middle, or right up here, you're denying the rest of those folks sanitary sewer.
Well, yeah, because down in the bottom end there, or whatever that is, south end,
Yep.
there's a number of them that don't look like they're hooked up.
Yeah.
Or is
That's
this
just the main line.
So.
That's just
yep.
the manholes?
Yeah,
Or
this is kind of the
what's in
main
there?
line.
Sorry.
These would be service lines up to
Okay.
each of the properties.
I can't frankly remember exactly what we talked about as far as who cost shares, but I've been thinking about that. I'd like to see us reimburse similarly to how we did in the North Cedar Heights neighborhood, where when people tied in to fix their sump pumps, we have a reimbursable negotiation there. I think that's what we were kind of talking about, is trying to make sure that we come their way.
So-
We don't want to strap them with a mandate, and we're not doing that at all.
So
We're saying
we-
it's available, and if and when you want to hook up to it, we'll work with you, but.
So a couple things, if we model this, just because it's a little bit different than sump pump versus sanitary sewer, the model may be a little bit closer to what happened out in Daryl's ward out in Cherrywood Acres a number of years ago, where city came in, purchased the sanitary sewer, they put the sewer in, and hooking up was the cost of the developer. Some of them had septic systems that still had a lifespan. We said, hey, you know, you can keep that until you need to replace those, and then go ahead. Once they tied on, then there's a tapping fee that's associated with that. They tie into that tapping fee, and what we've agreed to is let them pay that over an assessment over like a 5-year time period on there. So if you have a $30,000 hookup fee, for instance, it makes it a little bit more affordable. I just threw out 30. I don't think it's that high, but
So these construction costs and easements are the city
so
costs.
easements would be what the city would pay for. So and the thing that's interesting is obviously everybody has a different width and different length through their backyard. So we would be paying on a square foot basis. We're estimating that would be about $330,000. The city would pay for those and not get reimbursed back through the construction cost. The construction cost of the whole line would then be distributed to the property owners through a tapping fee. So that would be divided equally through all of the tap. And
And if somebody doesn't want to hook up for 10 years, then
that's correct.
postponed down the road.
So
We're
let's say they
financing
put in a brand new septic 2 years ago. We don't,
But
they have
we're
an investment there.
We're financing the construction cost up front, the city is.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Continue with that?
Again, just an update, Green Hill Road. This is a view looking from the southwest up to northeast. As you can tell, this is the underpass on the trail system there. This is one of the images. They have 4 different alternatives that they're looking at right now. They're looking at 58 going, currently 58's going under Green Hill. They have an option where 58 would be going over Green Hill. And so they have one that it would be a roundabout and one that it would be more of an intersection like at 58. So there's 2 options going over, a roundabout option and then also the option with a traditional intersection, I'll call it, and then the same thing as 58 going under. I know that they've been working with some of the property owners out there. They're doing some noise analysis to see what's going to be the better option for the neighborhood that is almost right below where the picture is looking at. So, and right now, it's the projected letting through the DOT is in 2028, but we also know that this is, this project's underfunded right now. So, they're gonna be looking at some federal grants to move this one forward.
So this is primarily DOT driven?
This is, yes, this currently, they started a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago now, they started rating their intersections a little bit differently, but this was one of the top 10 worst intersections in the state for safety rating. So that's how it's kind of moved up on their list. I think it was top 3 intersections for worst intersections was Viking in 58, and that's how it moved ahead of this. So, interestingly enough, many of you remember Jim Krieg, but when Jim Krieg was in Chase's position a number of years ago, and they were first bringing Highway 58 down, we came across a memo a number of years ago that basically told them they needed to build these intersections at the time, and I think combined it would be just under $2 million.
Build it like this.
Building intersections at these, so back in the 80s, we would have got a bargain here. But,
Wow.
These studies cost us $2 million, right?
yeah.
Not cost us, DOT.
So again,
Came out of your
I think
pocket.
right now what the city's committed, or at least committed in the CIP, is about $4 million towards this project. So, and I think total cost is getting up to about, I think I had it here, 50 to 60 million at total cost.
10%, we got it roughly, or some percentage we got it?
So, back, we offered that probably 7 or 8 years ago, right as they were building Viking in 58. And again, we're using TIF dollars, the unified TIF, and we're also looking at, okay, what's the capacity of the TIF and how much can it afford? And so we've let the DOT know that. The Viking in 58, I'm going off memory, but I want to say that was about 36 million total, and the city was into that for about 11 million at the time. So, any questions on Green Hill, or if not, I think we'll just keep going, and there'll be a number of public meetings coming up here in the future that we'll keep you aware of. West 23rd Street up on near UNI. This is a project that we've been working with the university for with quite some time. So this stretch, I apologize, it's not that bright, so it's a little bit difficult to see, but Hudson Road on the left, Campus Street down there on the right. Right now we're working with a consultant coming up with a couple of concepts to move forward with, working very closely with the university to, they're looking at, what is some unique characteristics to make it, hey, you've arrived at the university campus, and some of those things. So landscaping, some hardscaping, some of those things, making sure that we accommodate for the pedestrian traffic that goes through there as well. One of the other things that we're working with the university on is potentially an assessment that would work in this corridor. If you take Campus Street and go back down in front of the multimodal center, a number of years ago we did that same assessment. My understanding is it comes out of the state appropriates those dollars, so it doesn't impact the university's budget. And so we'd be looking at assessing a portion of this cost back to the state. That's one of the things that we'll talk to our lobbyist about and have to work with that. So, one other thing I'll just mention real quick is that we'd like to get cleaned up is right here in front of this area. For some reason, the city owns a couple of the, I may not be down far enough, but and maybe it's right here, but the city owns a couple of their buildings. So I don't know how it happened, but they built some of their campus buildings on our buildings, and so as we go through here, we'd like to straighten that up. it's a little bit difficult working with the regions, but the universities actually have been very good to work with. Whenever they've needed property from the city, we've donated it, or vice versa. We've never made each other purchase property. So there's some property down in back at the Hearst Center that belongs to the university that the city's actually on right now. And when we do all that, we'll try to get it all cleaned up together. So what we own's on our property and what they own's on their property. So. West Viking Road reconstruction. Again, this is here's my notes are on this page because the image wouldn't fit, but I'll go back to this is the particular image. If you can see, we're reconstructing the yellow portion that is here's Union Road on the far left of the page. We're coming up. If you see, here's where Viking comes down from Hudson Road. Yellow portion will be reconstructed. As you know, that's a seal coat portion right now. We've been working with the property owners. And then if you go back to here, we'll be bringing the trail all the way up to Hudson Road through that area. So we're looking in the spring of 24. Probably going to take about 18 months trying to stage that area. But again, this is beginning to be one of those areas of town that the traffic count is really starting to skyrocket. If you're on the west edge of town, you come down Union Road and then over to Viking to go to the shopping centers. Most of those people are avoiding Hudson Road because just a couple of stop signs versus how many lights on Hudson Road.
Ron, did we resolve some of the concerns of the citizens there? There was a number of them that came to council and wrote letters to us.
So, my understanding is we've met with a lot of them individually. I would say probably the one thing that a couple of them may want to see and would be this area. They are talking about wanting a roundabout there, and some of that's potentially to slow down the traffic that goes through there. So as far as the property, as far as things in front of their homes, I think we've worked with them very well. I haven't heard a lot of concerns when we designed the industrial park. And as you can see, this is a detention basin. A lot of them were, I don't want to use the word thrilled, but because they didn't want a park there, but I think the accommodations that we've made with them, and then also these homes here, if you recall, there's a berm that goes around here. We've completed the berm, so these homes are somewhat isolated. These homes now have a really nice feature in front of there. And Chase, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we had the DNR came and stocked that this this spring. So DNR stocked that with fish this year. So it's and next year as we do that, there'll be a trail system that goes around the pond. So.
Say that publicly.
What's it? Well, yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing the folks that know that the DNR stocked it. They're out there, which is a great amenity actually. So.
What would it look like at this juncture to revisit that intersection before it goes in the ground?
So that would be something that we'd want to do before we actually take it to bid, and we're working with the property owners now, and I think Chase is going to probably have to revisit that and maybe come back to the council. We would have to secure some more right-of-way up in this area if we did that. So we'll continue with things and then bring any changes or progress with that back. So
we will look at a roundabout?
You can, yes. I know that the consultant looked at it and talked about the volume of traffic and the current and even the 20-year projected doesn't require that, but I think from there could be the potential to add something there.
Calming is superior with that.
Well, and one of the things that they all talked about, the speed study actually came back, didn't support what they were saying about how fast traffic goes through there. But we also know that there's a seal coat road that's pretty narrow, and this is now going to be a concrete road that's going to be straight and
probably
fast.
wider. Yep, because we'll have a bigger shoulder than what it has now.
Well, it'll have curb and gutter,
Yeah.
And bike
so,
trails.
Yep.
yeah. And have so,
That's a quarter mile. So that's about a quarter mile strip? I mean.
but did you want us to mark where a quarter mile was? on that for you?
Put a white line up there. Checkered line on the other side.
Where's the airplanes that-
I just want a checkered line on the other side.
Really like that new raceway we're building.
Again, moving through some of these kind of quickly unless there's questions. As you know, many of these we'll be working with all of the property owners here. This is a roundabout that's going in at Viking Road and Prairie Parkway. So I think we have a little bit of property here, and there may be a little bit here, and then working with John Deere to move forward with this project. Looks like 24 is going to be minimal work, probably utility type work. And the majority of it will be in 2025. One of the things we're looking at pretty heavily right now is the staging, and how's the staging going to work to get this done in one season and quicker. With the staging, one of the things we're looking at is potentially closing this off completely and using the Brandy Lynn that would be right in front of Menards and to get around there. So
Sounds like an area too.
Yep.
yes, it will be.
Especially coming out of Ross's and that
Close it
turn.
completely, you can save a considerable amount of money.
Well, that's
Not-
money and
She's
time
there.
are the two things,
Really good deal.
so because if they don't have to stage through a roundabout, it's and they
Safer.
yep.
Everything
Gets done in a
So
We piles
So-
of gravel here, piles of gravel there.
so the majority of that work would be done in 2025.
Sounds good.
One of the things that Chase was just notified of is they received a $290,000 TSIP grant from the state of Iowa. So for this project, so it's a safety enhancement.
Ron, I know, just
Good job, Chase.
wanted to think it through. If we did have to close this one down, I know there's been some consideration about whether we open South Main up to that shopping district again. Is there any viability in looking into that option, at least for emergency vehicle response? Or is that a no-fly zone still?
I'd have to really think that through, because right now, if you brought that down, you'd just be pouring into,
Tobacco, basically.
yeah, that, well, or you'd probably have to buy some type of an easement that comes down to that cul-de-sac there at DePaco, because that's just right now Blaine's parking lot.
It's usually pretty
To be
active
fair, I have
as
seen
well.
2 cars just drive up the grass
Yeah, some people don't
into
do-
their parking lot. So it's,
It's their
And we're city
temporary,
vehicles.
that's a temporary easement, I think is what that's called.
oh, that's,
Unless our Cedar Falls finest are there to say that's not a temporary easement.
So moving forward on this,
This one, yeah.
all right?
And here's did I skip? No. So North Cedar Heights area. So just really a kind of a quick update. We're finishing up the work on West Ridgewood right now. There'll be some West Ridgewood is the area in red, and so that's we'll finish up a lot of that in 24 here. But phase 2 will kick off in 24 as well. That'll be Timber Drive, East Ridgewood, and Woodland Avenue. So this originally was scheduled as a 3-year project, but one of the things that happened to us is the bid prices really kind of caught us off guard. So we regrouped and looked at it, spread it into a 5-year project. This is an area that really needs the work, but you know, some of the challenges have been up in this area are, you know, the narrow right-of-way. You're looking at most street reconstructions, we have 60 foot of right-of-way. Here we have maybe 20 in some areas. And so if you think about putting a sewer in the middle of that, when they have to dig down, there's no place to even put their dirt when they're going 10 feet deep for a sewer, or 15 feet, whatever it is. And the other challenge is the sewers, because they don't stay in the right-of-way. Sometimes they just go right under houses. So we've been really trying to straighten up some of the infrastructure here. And I will tell you, one of the things that's kind of We hold public hearings for public information meetings for a lot of our street construction projects, and you get maybe a trickle of people in. Every time we have one of these, we get a really big turnout. So it's kind of refreshing to not sit there for 2 hours and not have anybody, and you have a whole interested group. So
Sure, any place that says North Cedar in the name seems to have a really active community group.
well, which is good.
But this is north, okay, yes, right, okay.
Yes.
But it is very confusing. Every time I see it, I'm like,
Yeah.
but that's like, oh, it's by Hartman.
Yeah, that's
Cedar Heights, and then there's Cedar Lily as well.
Right.
North Cedar
Yep.
Square.
Should have a different working name for it,
so.
other North Cedar.
But so we'll continue working with the neighborhood and keep moving forward with this project unless. So Aldrich School, I think existing council members know this, but this has been a point of emphasis for quite some time for the existing council, looking at getting this connection to move through. And so we've worked with the developer to move this project, and there's a 50-50 cost share that we're moving forward with. So this may be a little bit of a dated slide, I know, that we'll be looking at making the connection at the red area, the black, and the blue over the next couple of years. The rezoning and the land use map that's what we set the public hearing for on the meeting the other night. So that public hearing will now be on the 16th, January 16th, to talk about those two items, and then coming forward after that will be the plat. So we're trying to keep on schedule with the developer, and so we can move this project forward as well.
Hey, Ron, this may be not totally on, but is there gonna be a trail on Ashworth? Like, is it gonna go the whole way?
Chase, help me.
On Ashworth?
Yeah.
Ashworth is the blue and the
Right.
orange color.
It'd be
No
sidewalks.
trail, it'd be a sidewalk, residential sidewalk.
Okay.
If there was any potential trail or wider sidewalk, it'd be on the north-south Arbors Drive, the black section.
Okay, and this is sidewalk, this is just me, it's gonna go the whole, like, there's gonna be sidewalk, because that's a new enough development, sidewalks the whole way, right?
So
Sidewalks
as-
required upon when
Okay,
a home
okay,
goes
okay.
in. Yep.
So when the home goes in, they would put the sidewalk in as kind of one of the last things with their driveway.
Yeah, so you'll have sidewalk eventually.
Yeah.
I can tell you that from living in my neighborhood.
I was gonna say, you-
Someday when you're older.
So Ron, is this an example maybe where there's not much, if any, park space?
I think we
I
talked.
mean, there's
This-
around the
this is
school,
a-
but it's like,
And this is a great example of, where would the park space be? But remember that the city owns this portion here, and that's a park space that we can develop at some point.
right.
Well, and isn't there kind of at the top of that loop, like a little bit more to the left, isn't that also an easement? And originally the developer had talked about putting in a park, like nearer to where like the creek runs through.
Where am I? In this
Yeah,
area?
like right there.
That's,
So
parcel
this kind of goes back to that, okay, do we, this is really all a detention basin that kind of comes through here. So do we want park space in a detention
Is that
basin?
one stocked?
It's stocked, but
Is there
maybe not
application for that one
finished.
to go to master plan zoning,
So-
including that park space
Yeah.
that Hannah was talking about? Yeah. So there could still be room for that, this depends on the developer.
You could
So,
put frog hunting.
But Chris got up with a good point, connected with the school, obviously.
Yeah, I
playgrounds
was
are a
gonna
good
say, so
idea.
the city does own that directly across from Aldrich, correct, Ron?
yes, that's correct. So the city owns this. So
And Kelly, were you asking if there's gonna be major trail, recreational trail, or?
I guess I was
shallows?
just,
Or are you more just
More
thinking?
for
is there a
sidewalks.
plan for a trail in the future on Ashworth, or is it just gonna be,
So this was always
Residential.
Ashworth. This was always residential, so
Sure.
this will be sidewalk, both
Sure.
sides of the road.
okay,
So, and I believe the trail section goes up here. Is that correct, Chase? Stephanie?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, Arbors has a trail.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that'd
Somewhere
be
in
good
here,
for park
there,
right there.
a makeshift bridge over a ravine or something?
So I think that was that in this area?
Yeah.
Yep.
So right in there. And so last we heard, at least one of the property owners is not interested anymore.
allowing it
correct.
or doing something formal?
So they don't want to allow it.
We're talking about the little bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell that to all the kids that go through there anyway?
See all these trespassers all over town, what's going on?
Just a thing that I get reminded about once every 2 months.
Yeah.
I get a call. Not that long.
I'm guessing in the parks master plan we've got coming up, I know we talked about a lot of park needs over there, so that'll probably be reviewed in that master plan.
Yep. This would be a great area to talk about what are the needs for that particular, and it's going to do this area is going to do nothing but grow.
Yeah, yeah.
So Ashworth's done, when's the next phase of this start? Or Ashworth is done, the first connection is part of that.
So
When
all
does it
of
start?
all of these are coming up. So the red, the black, and the blue.
The major shift is just, we're basically committing to getting these 4 streets done as opposed to working out agreements, cost share.
Well, you've approved the agreement.
Right.
So the agreement's been approved, and so as part of the agreement, it's moving forward with the plating, and they have to, so the developer's responsibility is really getting they're looking at rezoning it from R1 to RP. That'll be, this council will decide that on January 16th. And then after that, we'll follow up with the plat that they'll be looking at coming up for this area. And within the plat, there's some staging areas that are identified.
So Ron, the troubles we've had with this development instigated a developer code update here a couple years back. Is that what I understand?
Where we actually have, that you have to come back, well, a couple of them.
The staging with the roads and
Yep.
streets and so on.
Yeah, so the city can kind of drive that, so you can't drive them into a corner, so to speak.
Or the city required.
Is it, for the contracts, that they have 3 years, I think, from June?
I'd have to look at the contract again, but that, do we have, all segments to be constructed in
Yep.
36 months. So,
Sorry?
so all of those 3 segments within the next 3 years, 36 months, that we've got to get those. So I think you'll see a significant amount of construction out in that area in the next 3 years.
I approve.
You have a conflict of interest. You have to step out on this one.
So that's Aldrich School. Move into, this is a project that's kind of been laying out there a little bit in our CIP, Union Road from West 27th down to University Avenue, including looking at the geometry here at the intersection. But we've been looking at this project, and we feel really comfortable about moving it, but it's just outside of the CIP window right now. We're looking at this as a 2030 opportunity, or if there's other funding opportunities that may come up before that. We're always looking at whatever grants could be
A
there.
long ways down the road from high school.
It is, but it's
Could have a lot of traffic on that road.
I can't remember what pushed this out. Wasn't this on the thing and then it got
so
screwed up?
it was always on for a couple years out, but I think because of some of those bid prices the
Yeah.
last couple of years, this was one that did get pushed out a little bit further.
Right.
And the older school connection.
Oh, and the Aldrich School
What it
connection
pushed
has
it out.
pushed it out.
Mm.
And we got to remember, one of the things that's just interesting is there's the amount of capacity that the city can handle itself as, how many projects can we get out, but also the thing to remember is the amount of contractors in the area. There is a finite capacity that they have as well. And I think we're really close to it this year. You can tell when they're pouring concrete at today's the 20th of December, we're pretty fortunate. So,
Listen, we chose minivans over Camrys.
so.
This will continue down to the West Viking Road.
Well, so when you
Not
get
this
here,
particular update.
so So it gets interesting there because here, this right here, the black line here, that's the city limits line. So you get down here, this section of Union Road's also in the county. So we'd have to work with the county to figure out how do they, is the county gonna upgrade that, or at some point is the city gonna annex that into the community, and do we take that over to, so. And if we go back, one of the things is half of Viking Road where we talked about in front of the homes, the north half of that is actually in the county. So, because the city limits line runs right down Viking Road there. So, just kind of an update, that's goal number 4.
Anything from goal number 4, anything that was not covered, you'd like to include?
You guys want to talk about college holiday?
Good? Okay, all right. Do you need just a quick break before we move into 5?
5 minutes.
I think so. Just a
Yeah,
Just a
quick 5
let's
minutes.
do a quick break and then we'll move into 5.
Thinking an actual 5, we don't need to be here for 15.
7. That's why it's not even.
I'll do
Oh, I meant goal 5.
Oh, go 5.
a temporary click.
You're down to 4 minutes
Oh,
for your
good.
break.
No, I think you just leave it. I think you can just leave it.
It's allowed.
I think.
We adjourn at 5:28.
So,
Look how official you are, Trevor. That's good.
I mean, it is his responsibility.
Part is. So the question would be,
Thank you for actually following this.
I gotta get a glass.
That means a different thing when you hear that clinking.
I've used it at landlord meetings, and it works. Everybody starts looking around for the bride and groom, it's like.
Now, so I know alcohol's not allowed city property. Is it allowed at council meetings?
What?
No.
Alcohol?
No.
Is there a?
I'm not even joking about it. Somebody over here, like, oh, I heard Gaines say we could have alcohol at council meeting. I don't even joke
I
about
mean, it's on the
that stuff.
recording, so.
It would be relaxing and better for the decision-making process.
Or it encourages us to get the meeting done sooner. So.
That's correct. I don't think there is.
That's what I was assuming. Like, there probably is no actual preclusion of it. No, I didn't pick the date.
Well, it's the it's not percolator, but it's, you know what I mean? It's a
So I did actually, I will drive by Oregon and say, find that beautiful bus stop. So
how hard it
It comes up. And I'm like, because if you look at where it's at right now, we get
I'm great. How are you?
What's going on? Meals on Wheels.
Meals on Wheels? I didn't know that was still a thing. But it's precious. Oh, like volunteers or like receives? I don't. I know this really cute guy. His name is John Cross, and he lives in the College Hill neighborhood. And he gets a meal, but it's through a program at the Western Home. So I don't think it's Meals on Wheels.
Yeah, I know Rob Green participated.
Well,
And I saw.
And they're coming back.
And I went in, I started.
bring back Wheels on Wheels. Yeah. I mean, it isn't really.
Yeah, it's not just a Cedar Falls program.
Nobody's talking about it. For anybody that participates.
Or receives their volunteers, or knows what's going on.
Rob?
I would love it. I mean, it's
But
just
like,
like confusing.
my
It's like I'm trying to get the
because I think it's like a big.
It's just confusing right now.
Sorry.
They're cutting back or
You
something.
can put that I want to, but.
In the article.
Kelly Down would really like to be able to volunteer. Lane.
You can only do so much.
Someday when I'm I can't wait for you to retire. Dr. Video used to say, oh, you're never going to imagine just sitting and I say, didn't you retire? You were retired. Like, doing things that drive you.
Yeah, that reminds me, I can't even remember my doctor, but I'm going to see him all the time, but he used to work for,
Dave last time? Cal Christensen?
Wow.
Oh,
yeah, remember how I was going to see my, yeah, Dr. Felton.
Yeah,
And then I saw Kelly back there working. I was like, oh, yeah, how are you?
pulling my ponytail until it got
Yeah,
pulled
well,
out of my head.
it's funny, I went to go see him again, and I guess he was sitting next to me. Yeah, he was going to see me near there too, so. So apparently whenever I go see my doctor, city council,
You gotta wait a little bit to get in. All right, Ron, Hannah and I are ready.
Anything like that for water?
No, I'm good. Thank you, Jen.
What? I like the box. I like the bumblebees.
You guys got all your Christmas shopping done?
No, Ron, I gotta go out after this.
No, Rob.
I'm going to Kohl's. I've been circling the parking lot because when I go to Kohl's, it always looks very busy and I can't go in because they've taken out one set of registers on the one side. You been to Kohl's lately?
No.
It's awful.
But actually, I've been, this year, I've been the one doing most of the shopping.
Oh, that's nice.
For more,
Wow.
more than
Have you
my
been out
wife.
to Shields?
I have, and that's a madhouse. It's
One
great.
day I did a loop around the parking lot, and then I was like, no,
I used to be a part
I
of
can't.
the club for a little bit,
I
but
don't think I need to be there today.
No.
Never have that.
Just
Wait till you see the other side.
I'm gonna bring this to.
I tried.
I have a matching one.
It's early for me. I thought
Ron, look at what Hannah got me. It says at large and in charge.
I didn't
And
think I heard that.
there's a tiara.
Tiara, did you both?
Nice.
Did you both get those?
Hannah
I did.
got
I
this
made
one.
them for us. That's funny. That's you know? I just think that you need matching coffee cups.
I'm just gonna take sips like
Looked into
this.
the Rotary Club and was like,
Yeah.
It's gonna be perfect.
I mean, I
Well, great. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You know, I did get on Etsy and look
Joint
at
service
tiaras,
organization.
and they're all like wedding tiaras. Like, where are just your standard? Like, I'm going to a meeting tiara.
I got tons of tiara suppliers, so
I can't do
we
it.
get to the point where we.
I
want
usually can't do
tiaras.
it either. I'll be up late. I know some guys that can drink it anytime.
I just want to
it doesn't
just
affect
sell
me.
tiara.
No, it affects me.
So I usually can only drink it when
tiaras when I
for some reason it's too hot.
turned me
So-
away initially.
No, I know, but that
then,
was
but
like
then
a living
if I have more than
it's a
2,000,
little
I'll
loud.
just get chased.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Well,
If I
I
had,
mean, is there really such a thing?
it's probably been a couple of weeks around the office.
Isn't there more seats?
Let's see, I'm pretty sure I said this
I don't know, man, I don't get enough sleep.
Especially if
like
I really did try to take action. See, if, you know, if it wasn't
the
for
best
other things,
possible
trimmers.
tiaras ever.
Yeah. I will.
Are we ready?
I will accept it. He's over there, the chairman. Okay. Get out of the way.
Daryl?
Yeah, I hear you.
I know, I said.
Here's pasta nails.
Okay. Hear ye. This is a subtle. There, that sounds like the.
It made it onto the last recording. Did it?
Did it?
Yeah, because I said it. I got lucky.
Continue on, Ron. If anybody's listening.
All right, so I think we're good with 4. So game on, goal 5. The last of our goals, unless we want to make another category. So first, we have 3 items listed here, but it's really the first 2. 5B, is it 5B? Well, it actually should be 5A, 1 and 2 were listed green. And so actively support the development of cultural, educational, recreational, and natural features which make Cedar Falls distinctive. And then also endorse planned community growth which protects the unique natural and historic features of Cedar Falls. So these were identified by council members. I didn't know if there's additional conversation, support for.
Lovely sentences.
Yes. Exclamation point.
Then we also had 5C1 was continued planning for the Hearst Center expansion relocation. It's something that we discussed a little bit earlier. Is there any additional conversation, or we think we're good there? With the Hearst Center, so I think we're good with that conversation. And then 5C12 was also discussed previously, was the project with the high school and the pool. I think we're
Do we need to edit that line at all, just for relevant verbiage?
For update.
To continue collaboration.
So it was actually one that we had considered. Do we recommend striking this one since it's almost done, or wait till next year to remove? So we kind of elected to,
But you're saying is it's still developmental plans?
It's, yeah, I mean, we're done with plans, we know where it is, complete it, kind of like we did with the other one.
What's your
Support
recommendation?
that.
You can strike it.
Like we did it.
Yeah, I guess I don't have a verbiage there, but.
How about we wait till it's
Are you
like
talking about the
actually
pool one?
like
Is that how it's currently
completed?
worded?
yeah.
Done?
I like it when the keys are turned over.
That's what we changed with the roads,
Work session in the pool? Is that
less
what
than 2
you're saying?
Yes. Yes.
I don't want a work session, I just want to clean that up, because we're not developing plans for a new community pool. So why would we ask you to continue developing plans for a new community pool?
So we just
So
strike the
are we
on
just taking
the,
out the words on the development?
or
on the
of
development
plans. Continue collaboration with CFCSD on the development for a new indoor community pool.
On the, or on the new indoor.
For a.
Percentage use? No. So I guess I'd have a broader meaning to the plan.
Yeah.
And it's not just the construction,
Yeah.
but the use as well.
Programming.
Right.
I'll accept
So
that.
keep it,
Keep it.
Yeah.
all right?
Again, some of these are just going to be updates. I know many of you have had the opportunity to go down and see the Cedar River Rec project, actually go down and see the construction. We're getting ready to enter a new phase in the project here. We're on the north or east side of the river, however you're kind of looking at it there. We'll be cleaning some of that up with the water features and moving over towards the west or the south side of the river coming up here in the next couple of weeks. Amanda worked with Ty Graham and Matt Tolan, and they just did a video that I think they're actually will start going out on Channel 15 and maybe some social media stuff today with information about the river. So again, just real quickly, there's 7 in-river structures, pedestrian access to each of the river structures, turtleback landing on the downstream side, and landscaping. So I think this was again a project that, you know, it's right there where do you take it off or do we wait till construction's done? And so I think this is one that we just said, hey, let's just leave it on till construction's done.
They're building a coffer dam right now to divert water.
So here's a project that's generated a little bit of chatter, is the Big Woods Lake Campground expansion. So this was actually came from some citizens approached staff and said, hey, what we're looking at is we'd like to contribute to the Big Woods Lake campground expansion. And what they were looking at is the addition of approximately 30 to 40 sites, tent sites, and construction of additional shower and restroom facilities and installation of a dump. So all of these things conceptual right now. This is the first time that the elected body has had the opportunity to discuss this. So again, there's been some concepts floating around, but at this time that's all they've been is concepts that are there's nothing that's proposed, none of that. And so the conversation really here is do we want to actually look at that? And so I'm going to fast forward here just a little bit. Here's kind of a little bit of an aerial view. You see Big Woods right here, Lake Street to the north. The campground is right there. I apologize for the zoom in a little bit. So now you can kind of see, here's the existing campground site out there, Highway 58, 218. There's, again, Lake Street. And so the red area here is what that proposed conceptual area would be. So,
Who owns that, I don't know, teardrop, that funky,
this thing?
The bean field between the.
to the right, east. Towards
that.
that.
Brian, do you know?
I'm not sure who owns it. Don't know who owns it, but that specific parcel has been brought before the county board before about potential expansion in that direction. Wasn't of interest at that time. That was probably a year ago.
And one of the big conflicts is the railroad track.
Yeah, I think the big challenge is the railroad track that runs.
Okay.
So one thing, I wish I would have had the slide, so I apologize, but the 28E agreement that we have for the Big Wood use is it always identified an area for a campground and potential expansion. And I can pass this around so people can see it. I wish I would have kind of got that just today. But that includes this, really from this peninsula area, kind of straight over. So this has always been in the area conceptually that, hey, it's looking at an additional expansion for that campground area. But so the conversation really is this, where does the council want to go with this? This is, I know some of you have been contacted by residents and concerned citizens, and we don't have a lot of information. I'm sorry.
Can you point out the special trees?
That's the peninsula. So
So-
that was where there was, someone had shown that would be the area.
Got it.
Talking with Brett Morris, there's still some care to be given to those trees.
Sure.
To help them flourish a little better. They were planted very closely together without a whole lot of, thought of what was going to happen years and years down the road. Brian's talked to the North Cedar Neighborhood Association about that too, that they understand there still could be some work done in that area. But if we were to go after some expansion, it'd be further to the east.
Would it
Where some work
interfere?
needs to be done, also on just helping the forest and getting rid of some of the noxious plants, the poison oak and poison ivy, and then replant with some favorable plants. So it's going to take some years, just like they're working on the oak savanna out there now. That's something that Daryl and I probably won't be around when the oaks are more mature, right? So you're doing this for the future. If it's done well, I think we could continue to look at this, as long as it's done well.
So,
Communicating to the public of what they perceive is going to happen.
Yeah.
I've had quite a number of people contact me about the pine trees coming down, and several photographers said that there's some of the few places in town you can get a void of city light. I mean, you can get natural light and take good photos and that sort of thing. It's a thing, you know, so.
Kelly?
so
That area still gonna see some work done in there, but it's not gonna be part of the campground. That's my
Yeah. Well,
plan.
the maintenance work of that can be done without our decisions, right? Yeah. Correct. So,
Well, from the public standpoint, when they start seeing activity out there and they hear a chainsaw running, we want them to be assured it's not that we're doing a campground expansion.
How about, let's get some other voice in there, Kelly?
okay, so I was, and I get it, that that's my response to people right now when they reach out concerned is this is a concept. First of all, it was a concept that they think, not to dog on social media, but that's where everybody found it at. Anyway, the first concept, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think you already said it, but the concept that maybe was going around did encompass the peninsula, and it, like, somehow I feel like, the concerns I hear from people, and I guess this is what I'm getting at, is whether or not I'm interested in pursuing it. This looks a lot nicer to me than what we had when it was like going over the trail and going into that peninsula area. Like, I love camping. I'm an avid camper. I love all the fun, but like I also love peace and solitude. So I guess, not to go in the weeds here, but this looks a lot better concept than the concept that I saw previously. And I was at a meeting along with Gil and Hannah, and I don't know, were you there? The Eagles thing had a.
Jamie was there in spirit.
Yeah.
I was sick that day.
Anyway,
I think that's what I was
I'm not anti, like, obviously I know that just saying I'm open to it is not saying like for sure that I will, but I'm okay with the continued conversation, I guess.
Ron, what determines whether you have 20, 30, or 40 sites? And then how many tent sites?
So I think we would work, Brian's been kind of heading a lot of this conversation up. I think he's worked with the, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think he's worked with the county, and the county's always been looking at some type of expansion. Brian, you want to?
Yeah, I can make a few comments on that. So, you mentioned the peninsula and all of that in that first concept that did get out there. We heard a lot of voices come out from that in opposition. So one was a trail, one was a peninsula. So that's what redirected us going straight south. Now there's a lot of invasive trees in there, Asian elms, honeysuckle, things like that really need to be cleaned up. But there's also a lot of really nice trees, walnut trees, good hardwood trees in that area, oaks, that type of thing. And our intent would be to answer your question about the number of sites, it would depend on how we can get in there and clean up some of the invasive stuff and see how it would kind of lay out in that particular box that you see. So to answer the question, we're looking at a lot of area there that's already defined in that kind of the primitive area, if you will. Although there's electricity there's really nothing defined there. That would be a good portion of it that would get several sites, and then we'd work our way south, and then you'd have some more shaded sites. And again, that would depend on the type of trees that we remove and what's left there for quality trees and undergrowth.
So you're saying what kind of open space you end up with once you
Right.
Clean up the
Yeah, and
invasive.
it's a little difficult to tell right now, but we're hoping to get 30 to 40 sites and then also have some tent area in there as well. And these would just be sites that have electric and water. There would be no sewer hookup there. Our intent would be up front near Lake Street to tie into the big box, the sanitary box up there, and include a dump station for campers.
And is there typically any way that we measure the effective usage of the parks? I know a lot of people have brought up that that lake is already pretty packed, and they're worried if we put in another 40 sites that it's just going to make it so congested that the people just wanting to come use it for a day from in town aren't going to get as much usage. Do we have a way we typically measure capacity?
I think the county actually did a survey of users of the campground. Now, I can't speak to the pressure that's put onto it by the campers, but I can tell you that in their survey they found that 79% of the people are within a 30-mile radius of the area that come camping there, which kind of surprised me. I thought, you either had people that were passing through, stopping for a weekend type of thing, but it's quite the opposite. You got a lot of local area folks that come there camping. In terms of the pressure on the lake, that's not the only spot there. That lake actually goes back into some area of what my grandparents used to own. And if you don't mind, I'll talk a little bit about that as well. The donation, I want to be completely transparent about. That $50,000 plus donation is coming from a cousin of mine. My grandmother and grandfather bought a large portion of parcel of property in that Big Woods recreation area back in 1928. They created a recreation area. It was called the Spring Lake Bath House. They had people could come in there, pay a small fee, and recreate for the entire day, whether they're swimming, whatever they're doing. And that was kind of in lieu of having to go to Island Park at the time, because you had the beach house there, or there was a pool over by Cedar Falls Utilities way back in the day. And so they had a little alternative site for people to go to. Unfortunately, my grandfather died when he was real young. He was 35 years old. He died in 1935. He was 32 years old. 1935 he died, and then my grandmother married his brother, which was kind of common back in the day, had 10 children, and so that's kind of what the legacy is there, and the reason for the memorial donation. That's kind of what drives that, is the Heath family over there. So I want to be completely clear about that. It is family of mine, so.
Cool. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks.
Because I think it sounds like, though, for tonight, what we're looking to do is this would still go through the process of some review. I think it'll be presented at the Parks and Rec Commission soon.
Design,
Public meetings.
layout of sites, public meetings, all that type of stuff. Just kind of, this is initial concept, hey, we want to put it in the CIP and then kind of start the process.
Can I just say, since we're all together and we'll probably get people reaching out to you, like, to me, this proposal and then the cleaning up that our professional arborist would do are kind of two separate things. So you're probably going to get, I mean, I know that there's folks that say, quote, a tree is a tree. Well, if you really look into and I'm not an arborist, but if you know the way the health of trees, I mean, the trees have to have light to grow, and you don't want a bunch of invasive stuff. So can we agree they're two separate things? Like, if they do hear a chainsaw, we should assure them that that's a professional person doing their job?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, if something like that, when they get out there, we'll have some PR that goes out, and then
Sure.
social media and some of those things, just to let folks know.
I love that.
Before the Emerald Ash Borer struck and we had to take down all the trees throughout the city, unfortunately, we had plans of not only around this lake, but also prairie lakes, to go in and do what we talked about, clean some of that invasive species, do what we're talking about with the savanna, the old savanna over in North Cedar, is to get that invasive stuff out of there so that the native vegetation can grow and thrive and have a much nicer recreation area. Right now, there's a couple walking paths that go straight south of the campground, and you cannot walk down them paths because of the poison ivy that rubs your legs as you walk through. So
Right.
If anybody's allergic to poison ivy, that's a huge problem.
And I think another thing that came out of that meeting with the North Cedar Neighborhood Association was that, obviously with improvements to the river happening, maybe there would be some consideration for a new campground closer to the river, but that right now we kind of share responsibilities with the county for this campground. And so like adding a new one is not just like, oh, throw in some spots and call it good. It's like you have to hire more people to maintain those sites. So that was why the kind of preferred option was to expand here, because then we could just use the same staff.
Yeah. A campground's like a small city with small city problems, especially when booze is flowing.
Yeah.
I'd still like to see some work done in consideration of Cedar City sometime. In fact, I know there was a Heath family that lived over in that area that they could name that in lieu of this, but
Looking for
it
more
is going
money?
to take some planning.
Always looking for more money. But that's something that I would just second quick on, and I talked with Ron about this with that Parks Master Plan, is I would like us to be able to take that a more comprehensive look at that whole area along the river, how we're utilizing it as an asset in the area. Because I know we've had some piecemeal things, like we've got this going on, we've got the first piece of the river going, but we know we have the dam to talk about. I know it got flowed out, I think we'll get to it later on, the eco loop.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be nice to do a little more comprehensive of a look at that area, what it could be used for.
So for now, 6 the way it is.
So what I'm hearing, just for the thumbs up, is you're all right with staff to continue to go out and look at developing a concept and bringing that forward? No guarantees, but just to look at that.
Yes.
And I love that staff heard that the peninsula and the trail were big concerns. So like, let's continue to hear that.
So when I say that, I'm saying the red box area
Yes,
here
I
is
love
what
that.
you guys
Yeah.
are interested in.
Yes.
Yes.
I'd also just add to it, with an ask to whoever owns that in the east. The assessor's website shows that there's a local-ish company that owns that, and maybe there's some option for other things, so just know that
Take
that's an
out those
option.
railroad tracks.
On the other
I
side.
do have a question
Yeah.
for Brian.
Yep.
You're going to clean up the invasive all through that whole park, not just in that red square.
Yeah, we actually have a volunteer that does a lot of work out there. He does a lot of work with the Asian elms, cleaning them up, and the willows and things like that. So he typically goes out and does his thing, and then he lets us know when he's got a pile of brush or something, and we'll go out and take care of it. But yes, our intent would be to not just focus on that particular area, but try to work the whole park. In fact, we actually had a tree planting on the west side of the lake not so long ago. We opened up an area, cleaned out the invasive stuff, and put some trees in on the west side of the trail over there.
So to manage our city parks, do you rotate through them to do these invasive cleanups?
Absolutely, yeah. And these would be our folks, like I said, if it wasn't for the ash borer that held us back, we probably had a lot of that done already.
Thank you.
Ron, are you moving on from Big Woods?
Wait, yes, sir.
Okay. Before we do that, I just wanted to double check on C3. Can you give me a quick overview of why that one's being removed? The strike through on C3, just 4 lines above that.
An enhanced, implement when financially feasible, an enhanced riverfront as a visitor attraction consistent with the North Cedar Falls Development Master Plan.
I don't see a year on that document. I personally haven't reviewed it, so I'll own that, but
Yeah, I
I'd
was gonna
love
ask
to see
that
some
too,
riverfront
that
improvements
was-
done. So
Yeah.
I'm just curious why we're striking through that one if we haven't finished it.
That's a good point. We will unstrike that.
What number was that?
So C3, 5C3.
Was
It's
there a
in
note
the
on there?
old.
It's in the
It's
old
in the
one.
old
Yeah,
one.
it's
So-
not the one you have.
Can you hover over that, Amy? The blue
Here
one?
on the screen.
Right here?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there's.
Are you
Thank you,
driving
Van.
that screen?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, if you hover over, there was a note on there. I don't know if there was an explanation. No, there's just an edit. Never mind. Okay. Yeah, I guess, again, I need to go back and look at that development master plan. I don't know, Gail, if you know anything about that, but I'd like to see us still look into riverfront improvements, because I think that's our next venture. So we're
Because is that northern?
okay with looking at it.
Is that Northern Cedar Falls Development Master Plan, again, is that a current working document we're using, or is that a kind of legacy study, or?
There's a topic that might be referring to that North Cedar maintenance, parking maintenance plan.
Are you wanting to see the notes, Stephanie?
We'll, right now, not to get bogged down in it, but we'll leave it we'll leave it in place, and then we'll redevelop, relook at this CFD 4102. Just as, and we can revisit that at some point. Good catch. So, where am I at here now? So, 5C9, which is now 8, I think, was highlighted. It was alternative roadway designs. So consider recommendations from city staff when alternative roadway designs are appropriate based on safety, roadway efficiency, and financially feasible. Typically, these opportunities arise when a street is scheduled for resurfacing or reconstruction, allowing city to address issues involving landscaping, pedestrian movements, transit, bike, and vehicular. So an elected official had this one highlighted, so.
Yes. That was probably
It
me.
might have been me. I just like it,
It's
so I
probably
just want to
us.
exclamate it.
I think that there's, you know, we talk a lot about like traffic calming measures, and you know, I know Chase and I have talked about like some alternative designs that are like becoming more popular. I mean, you know, obviously the roundabout was a big like woo, but you know, even close to Lincoln with kind of how like the corners come out and they have the little like rain gardens in them. You know, just some methods for alternatives for traffic calming. I think that's really good, and you know, a great way to kind of get ahead of traffic speed related issues. And I think this also kind of plays into the like traffic management that we talked about earlier, you know, that just like things to keep in mind when we are building new roads, that like, you know, if we think this is going to be a place that has a lot of traffic, like what are some alternative designs, not just always, you know, the speedway, as we were talking about earlier. So, yeah.
Yeah, because sometimes it does take a while. Like Prairie Parkway is a good example of like there's been years of, not years, but the years I've been on council that was a concern. And as I've learned from, you know, our professional staff that as it's infilled, now I even notice like, I don't know, you naturally go a little, but
Yeah.
could there be something maybe in the interim as we're waiting for it to be infilled or something? I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah, or just, you know, when we're making improvements, like, you know, the Clay Street intersection, you know, just what are some alternatives that we could do instead of just always, you know, quickly jumping to a stop sign. I think, you know, there's a lot of alternatives now. Great job.
So, where are
That's
we
all.
at?
Keep doing it.
Just keep doing it.
All right.
Keep considering.
This is just, we wanted to touch a little bit on this is a final report that we had done from a firm called Bonestro a number of years ago that talked about our sensitive, environmentally sensitive lands and just general management strategies for some of those areas and cooperation. We do have some zoning and subdivision, but this was also something mentioned by some elected officials, and if they want additional information, it was just a real quick piece for conversation.
I appreciate this because I'm not sure that I even knew that this existed, and that's my fault for not, you know, looking. But that is a big, you know, as things are developed, you'll at least the emails I get often are concerned about this type of thing. So I'm glad that I know it exists.
Some communities have sensitive lands ordinances that are maybe more restrictive than ours. For instance, you can't develop on steep slopes, or they have a ratio of if you're going to go in and tear down trees, you know, how many you have to replace within that development. Ours, I think, mainly talks about wetlands and some of those areas. And wetlands are always a tough thing for us when it comes to developers, because our sensitive or this ordinance, environmentally sensitive lands ordinance, requires the developers to go out and have a professional look and identify wetlands within there. Well, they don't want to believe that that's wetlands, or it's not a high quality wetland. Well, the DNR and the Corps of Engineers will tell you that there's not really a quality of wetland. So, and so they want to shrink it or just develop over it, and so it gets challenging sometimes, because again, if you have 40 acres and 10 of it is identified as wetlands, what happens is that's 25% of their property they can't develop. So,
is this something that as we maybe consider, looking at our ordinance and our zoning or codes or whatever, that this could be like, will this come into factor as folks talk about those things?
Yeah, I think there's always looking at our existing ordinance that we have and tweaking it one way or another, or is there something that we think we need to do? I know that this is always it's challenging. It's a challenging one when it comes to working with developers and because there are different. You can be identified as a wetland, but then is it one that's what's the terminology, like connected to the bodies of the U.S. waters, and so now it's federally protected. Yeah. So I don't have a whole lot to report here, but this is just one of those quality of life issues that I think is important to a lot of folks, and so unless there's anything else. Again, I think we'll get through some of these here rather quickly. Searly Park renovation, this is a project that we've been working with the neighborhood for quite some time. I think it's going to be a pretty awesome addition. I think, Hannah, I think you've been involved in quite a bit of it. It's going to really kind of put a fresh look on the park, and so
we're nearly there with private funding, so exciting stuff ahead.
Good job.
We do have a number of other images, if anybody's interested, that we've developed from different angles, and so it's a great project. New playground, a new shelter, which is going to be more of a gazebo type shelter, inclusive surfacing and some playground equipment. So,
is the dinosaur staying?
Yes.
Anybody know?
Yeah.
Okay. That's been a topic of conversation when I've been in the College Hill area. They want the dinosaur to stay. The purple dinosaur.
They're really passionate about the dinosaur.
It is. I get it. I think everybody has a memory.
That's all surfacing turf, not grass.
Yes.
Correct.
So, unless there's anything on that one. Yep, I'm going to kind of keep moving on here. So, talk a little bit about all of our parks, and again, Parks Master Plan's gonna talk a lot about this. But as you can see, just from some of these pictures, I've talked about this before. Our parks are tired. They need work. They need. They're either visibly old, broken, outdated. Some of those things. One of the things is we know some of neighboring cities are really investing in their parks, and we're falling a little bit behind. So we're hoping with this Parks Master Plan, what we're going to get is a list to help prioritize and move some of that stuff forward. Hopefully they'll be able to go in, evaluate each of our parks, see where are we short within the community on park space, where do we have plenty, what parks need investment, where do we need additional park space. So we're actually, and our staff's pretty excited about seeing that Parks Master Plan thing move forward.
Something I talked to Ron about was hoping if we can get it going soon enough that we could have that information then for us at next year's goal setting, so we can budget for which of these recommended park improvements do we want to make sure we're getting in the next CIP. So
And really, I think, I can't remember, no, I think our, just from a staff, we're looking at Birdsell Park, kind of moving forward with Birdsell Park to start off with, but that doesn't mean to say there's not a number of other parks that may not come right up behind that, so. Any other questions, concerns with parks and where we think?
Big fan. Love it.
I have a handout for you here with the implementation of the bike network and the plan. So we've been the bicycle.
I think it was in the previous packet again.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah,
So-
I'll share with Hannah. This
Anybody
morning when I
join?
ran out the door, I knew I forgot something.
So, but anyway, that's a plan we try to work with all of the, I think there's been a lot of thought and effort and that's gone into developing the plan and, you know, what's the existing infrastructure and what can we do to implement this and the Bicycle Pedestrian Committee has been fantastic to work with on some of these things and as
Thank you, Roger.
move forward with some of these streets, it's working with them to try to get, you know, what's the best solution to move kind of all modes of transportation, whether it's pedestrian, bicycle, vehicles, and so they can kind of coexist in a safe manner. So, and over the past year, the Bicycle Pedestrian Commission is now a full commission. As the city, it was, for lack of a better term, ad hoc for many years, but now it's actually an official commission.
I know,
So-
just if I can quick, to mention to Roger, I know I think all of us received an email, someone looking at just questions about which trails were doing the snow removal on, which ones were not. I know we have in the process, a formal process to go through, you guys, I think. Is there a formal process to go through, you guys, for requesting, reviewing which ones were
Yeah, that's
having that?
really Andrew who's on top of that, and he's not here. Yes.
You're supposed to know everything, Roger.
The way that it's worked in the past, I know last year Andrew and I met numerous times, but every other year, every couple of years, we made it a point to get with the group and go over maybe priorities of any additions that they want to see. And so every other year we'll likely see it as a topic on goal setting. So we had it last year, so that's why it wasn't. Snow removal on pedestrian trails wasn't really a topic this year because we just discussed it last year.
The same map is going to be applicable this year.
Is there a best person in contact if we get those requests as council members to?
Yeah, Andrew Schwartz, he mentioned, but I can get that information to you as well.
Okay.
And I guess just generally it would be the chair of whoever the chair is annually, so.
Yep.
This is just kind of a real quick update with the Historic Society. They're actually going to be doing an inventory of residences and buildings of historic significance in kind of our downtown area. And they'll be actually applying for a CLG grant in early 2024 to complete that inventory, and so kind of the Overman Park neighborhood. So just a real quick update on that, unless
Do you want to say anything, Hannah? Because I know you were
I
passionate about
just
it.
wanted to support this. I think that, you know, in the past, this has been brought up, and there's some concerns that if a neighborhood is designated as historic, that would then like affect you from, say, updating your kitchen. That is not the case with this particular designation. It's more of a if you are interested in maintaining the historic qualities of your home, then you can apply for different grants and tax breaks and stuff through the state. So I think this is a really cool opportunity for this neighborhood and potentially additional parts of Cedar Falls. So I think it's great that our Historic Preservation Commission is following through with this and exploring the option. And I know right now they're kind of struggling to find a surveyor. Apparently that is a rare thing to do. So hopefully they can find a person to actually complete the survey for them. So, yeah.
Anybody else?
Questions?
So this is really kind of circling back to, I think we talked about this briefly on, I don't know, the second or third night, and one of the conversations is really where's the funding level at in the CIP, and what you have before you in the preliminary CIP is really the where we have it funded at, and so. Unless we hear otherwise, we'll be keeping it at this level and moving forward, so.
And I can give some quick, I just did some follow-up info with Jamar at UNI. Because, you saw the UNI article that said they've almost hit their 250 million. I did follow up with them to confirm that does not all sit in one bucket. It is usually line items. The Unidome is at about 19 million of the 50 million. 20 million is their mark for their first milestone to start kind of the next step of the project. They've got some bigger asks that are kind of still pending. So they are still fundraising. No specific timeline. They're still looking to try and wrap that up though in the same, I think the total campaign goes through 2026. I did ask and got some information working with Stephanie and Jennifer just on what's kind of the ROI from our standpoint as a city. And just from the events we're involved with, are there events that we've lost from the Dome that we could potentially have a chance to get back with this, just to try and figure out kind of for our tourism dollars, what's the ROI? She did say there's some events, I think one mentioned was the, I'm not going to get the name right, but it's like the Midwest Track and Field Conference that used to be at the Dome, that no longer is, that she thinks there'd be a real shot that once we get this renovation done, we can get that event back. And the total impact from a lot of those events, when you just look at the estimates using the state calculator, they're pretty big estimates in terms of, I was meant to have it pulled up in front of me. Jamar, they did put together some of their business case on the total economic impact that they were estimating from some of the projects. And I can pull it up while we're talking, but so I think there's definitely an economic case to looking at some of the events we could get. The question is, I think for me, talking with everyone is just, do we want to look at doing this year, leaving it where it's at, and then reviewing maybe with this next year's coming budget as we get kind of our list of priorities and other things we're looking to fund together? Is it something we want to increase this year? So I don't think whether or not we do it now doesn't mean we can't later say, let's support it more, but.
I think it's important that we support it. I would already said I'd like to see that we would be able to do 5 million. But if that's something that we can stay with where we are or boost that, and then we look at it next year.
Could we get back to the original ask? I think it was, but if I recall correctly, the original ask was 3 million.
3 to 5.
Right, but okay. So the original.
Yeah.
I thought I read a letter, an old letter that the original ask was 5.
It was 3 to 5 million.
3 to 5,
They put the
okay.
range in there, yes.
Okay, so I guess looking for common ground or at least a common starting point, could we? Can I? Could we maybe like pencil it in for the extra 50,000 to make the 3 million?
500?
500.
I'm sorry, 500,000. Excuse me. And then obviously, the budget's going to come before us. If it's something that I don't know, I'm just wondering. Like, is there a place we can start just to see if we could do it? Could we work it up like we're going to do it? And because I agree with Gil, I just think it's an incredibly important space in our community that our return on investment is going to be paid back. I mean, it's already, look what it's done in the past 50 years. I mean, I can't imagine what we would have lost if they hadn't have done the work.
My dad never would have seen the Rolling Stones.
Right, the Rolling Stones.
Is that information you can share with us?
Well, so I was just looking up right now, so this is from working with Jennifer. So these are just the events we're involved with kind of from the city standpoint. So this is not UNI athletics, anything like that. And then this is a calculator from the state that they use to plug in number of attendees, number of nights. and then it estimates based on how much money do they spend at hotels, shopping, everything. So just the events the city's kind of involved with is about $9,761,000 a year is the estimated economic impact locally. So just to give an event or an example of like one event, so the Hawkeye Farm Show was in February. It's a 3-day event. They get about 15,000 attendants. This is one of the bigger ones on the list. It's an estimated about $1 million that the total economic impact is from that event in the year. A smaller one, so the 7v7 football UNI Invitational, it's 1,000 people, 2 days. It's $165,000 estimated impact. So I don't think we have all the data right now on what the total impact could be, but there's definitely, it sounds like some events that we've missed out on.
Have we all been to the Dome recently? Because, I mean, I know it's not necessarily like someplace, I just think it's, if you haven't, I don't know. It's good to go see that the bathrooms look exactly like they did in 1994. Because I used to, yeah, anyway. I think it's important to realize it's not changed.
1976.
If I throw out a comment feedback that I've heard from several public people, that you got a university institution that's paid with taxpayer money, and city dollars are taxpayer money. So we're taking taxpayer money that the city extracts from the citizens to give to another entity that's taxpayer funded. So they were rather against, robust giving in that manner because of that concept. I would have to agree with that a little bit. The economic benefit of any event in there is going to ripple through the economy of Cedar Falls, but they have a scheduling 2004 to 2029. It doesn't have to be given to them all at one point, and let them use the 2.5 and do things with that, and as time goes on, we'll see what we have in the budget and if we can give them more. But I don't know that we have to be in a big rush to throw money at them, especially taxpayer money.
I'm gonna make one little comment to that. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but for the way that the university athletics is separate from the way that the actual institution, the education part, is funded. So there's something there that's not quite the same. They aren't able to tap into other funds that would be, marked for. I'm not getting it exactly right, but I know it's not. I know that athletics is not in the same pool as.
It's partially self-funded.
So like the $250 million.
They're not a self-sustained program.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
exactly.
They're in a separate line from the.
And while I get that, and I can respect that train of thought, I'll just stay out of it. But anyway, I just would like to. I think I heard the first night we were doing the temperature that there's a want maybe amongst this group of supporting that area and the university. So it'd be nice if we could consider, could we do it? Like, what would it look like?
I'm in favor of showing the commitment and support of your time and giving some money towards it. Where I'm torn a little bit is not knowing where the budget's at, giving calculations, which I think will happen the first of the year. So I'm in favor of us continuing to talk about this and see what we can commit to this year, recognizing that they're going to be for next year or not. I disagree with the idea that there's sort of a double taxation thing, because every 28B agreement or every time we work with another governmental agency, essentially they're normally dealing with a population that's getting taxed by both entities. So, although I understand the concern, I do think there is a huge return on investment over time. So I'm in favor of it conceptually. I just kind of want to see what it would look like after the first of the year, because it's a big number.
Yeah, I want to say I'm in favor of the 2.5, but whether we put more money, it goes to 2029. That's the point.
I'd like to see it get back to the original 3. But again, to Aaron's point, seeing the budget numbers first would be helpful. I think 5 would be a giant stretch, but 3, I think, in my mind, would be doable.
And I suspect, depending on what happens after we find out what the number are, 3 might be easy to do or not.
Dan, you said 9.7 and change a year.
Yep, and again, that's just from some of the events that we're directly as
That
a
we're
city
missing
kind of.
out on right now?
No, that's that we
Oh,
currently do
so-
with it. And that, again, is just the city events we're involved with, so that was just to give a sense of how valuable some of these events can be for total
Gonna attract
impact.
additional monies.
But there are some events that we have lost recently that,
I think like the craft show. I mean, just to throw one out. That used to be a huge thing. Those crafter people are.
Well, and the other thing to remember, you know, being with Tamar, is that there are other communities, like communities, that have stepped up their game and have attracted places to share these. So it's not for sure that we would keep the ones that we have now because of the options they have.
well, if I can give you one other, so the, just recently, the IHSA state football championships here, so that on here is, it's estimated, it's about 6 nights, 6 days, 55,000 attendance, so the total estimated impact is about $4,060,000 that we get local economy from that event each year. We just secured a new 3-year contract for that, but again, it's always that question of how do we keep competing?
Absolutely.
Well, and I would really like to explore further partnerships with the university. You know, I think that obviously this is a really important project, and I think that, you know, on the one hand, you kind of look at it like, is this a good faith? You know, are we adding, if we give them 3, we say, hey, we've met your ask, you know, we are good partners. And, you know, I think there's a lot of opportunity, you know, whether we're talking about College Hill or just other projects in general, you know, if the slide for Searly Park included a UNI logo. So I went and met with University Relations and said, hey, you know, we want to put your branding in this park. Can we? And, you know, what would that look like? And they were very open to further conversations about potential partnerships for including their branding and how they could potentially partner with us in the future. And so I think actions like this to show that we are a serious partner is just a really good opportunity. So I would agree with both Aaron and Chris. I think if it's possible to get to that 3 in our budget for this year, I think we should really consider that. But yeah, it's hard to say when we don't have the actual number, but you know, it's like, I think in the future we really need to think about, if we throw in some money at something and they throw in some money, what can we do together and what does that look like? And
to hold each other kind of accountable.
Exactly, you know. Yeah, you know.
Not like to say that they're not accountable, but just
to hold all of us accountable.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's like, I know like Dustin's idea of, you know, a children's museum. It's like, how can we start to build this partnership and what does that look like and how do we bring up those conversations and what is that conversation going to look like if we say, oh, we didn't meet your ask, but now we'd like you to contribute to something else, you know? So just something to keep in mind.
Could I maybe throw this out here? This is what I think I'm hearing. So currently we have in FY25, 1.25 million. In FY26, 1.25 million gets us to the 2.5 million. So if we leave those the same, and then you can discuss in FY27 potentially adding the additional 500,000 if that's
That I could get
paraphrasing,
behind
but
that. I was thinking you wanted to give an additional 500 on the coming year's budget. That's,
No, it was way down since the start. Since we.
yeah, no, I'd have no problem with that, and then we'd see as we go.
Yep.
What number is that, Ron?
Because in which case, we can't say our commitment is 5 million.
Yeah.
So Ron, if you're looking at adding in 500,000 in 3 years on the CIP, and then we can discuss the numbers, I'm with Aaron. I think we need to figure out how this shakes down. Because if you look at the numbers, our high school athletics have contributed quite a bit to the dome and rent, and we just built the stadium, and we're going to start moving them over there. We're giving to Cedar Falls Schools needs for a few things that they're building, and now we're adding more on at the dome. So we've added in a third expense column when we tried to save some money. So I just want to see that the money makes sense and that we can do it. We've got a lot of projects on the horizon here, and $500,000 could take care of a lot of code revision, or we could chip into a $50 million ask. I'd rather call Kurt Warner and David Johnson and say, hey, don't you guys want some legacy here? So
absolutely.
I think
if
what I
they're
was
separated, I know they're calling everybody they can, but
I think what I was saying is the decision on the additional 500 wouldn't have to be made tonight. It could be
Right.
made at a future year for FY27.
Yep.
So
Yeah, I
at
could-
least.
But as us tonight, we are collectively going, yeah, that vision is something we can, at this point, doesn't mean what changed.
What
So a
I think
consensus to get it to 3.
I think to Danny's point, it's the concept of being able to say we are
Right.
giving the 3 versus the 2.5, which is below the ask.
Like pledging.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you know,
okay.
whether it is, I mean, assuming they're okay with that, with receiving that funding in the future, then
I think
Insinuating
they're
they won't
probably.
be.
they'd be like, I'm going to need that right now.
Yeah, no, keep your 500.
Well, if it's a fundraiser, I can't remember when they cap it, but obviously they've got some time on it, but. consensus to look
I
at
thought
3,
this was in the time frame.
So what's the agreement?
consensus to look at adding in
500,000 in
$500 million.
2027.
Let's
fiscal
see if
year.
it makes sense.
So basically do the 3 million commitment with the
Right.
As long as it's still doing the job of,
Yeah, I can get
you
behind
know.
that totally.
So we're 1.25, 1.25 in the last 500,000 for free.
In FY '27.
Yep.
And then
Huge
Dustin's gonna
difference
call
from what
Kurt
I was
Warner and say
I'm sure he hasn't been called yet.
25 million for naming rights.
Yeah.
We got the business college, I mean,
We might as well name it something
the
else.
Warner Dome sounds different.
We're down to 5.
So that is the completion of what we have for goal 5. Anything that you did not, that we had not covered, that would go under goal 5 that you would want to add? Goal 5.
Did you want to review that those last
2
couple items,
items
like the
I
eco
had
loop
that we put
and?
into our initial, that I wanted to make sure, and I know we're probably all gonna get into a free-for-all, but we've
That's
talked
it,
for
we
the last
should
couple
look
of
at
years
those
about
quick.
doing something of support of
Pin and
creating a
slide
fireworks
type, but
display
sure.
for the corporate. I'd like to see us say, hey, since nobody's taken up that initiative, would the city council want to say, we want to provide this enhancement to our citizens and actually direct staff to try and figure out a way to do a municipal display for the 4th of July fireworks?
City fireworks.
Rather than just,
What-
hey, we'll answer questions.
Waterloo
But
has
instead,
one?
yeah, Waterloo's got one.
So we do one before or after on the calendar?
I don't know what it would look like, but I'm in favor of a municipal display that maybe we fund more than just support a private entity coming to.
I'm not, again, I'm repeating myself, I'm not anti the fireworks display. I think that'd be great, but like, I'd like to know I want to know how many communities actually pay for that and do the running, like these, because that's not just a quick thing. That takes people to do the work and all the stuff, and I don't want to put that extra burden on our staff. So I'm not anti a municipal fireworks display, but in my 45 years of life, it's always been some other, like in Aurora, it's the community club that does the organizing, and I'm sure, the big city of Aurora does all they can to support that, but it's not the city staff, which, anyway, I don't know that I'm open to that, put on city staff.
How long has it been since we had a fireworks display in Cedar Falls? I mean, I can remember back to being a kid, but did anybody know?
Like,
The last I remember was in the 90s, they had one up at Pheasant Ridge.
Is it Pheasant Ridge, right?
But it
The
was
90s?
the Kiwanis or
No.
somebody who did it.
There was one at the Dome
I
in
think that
like
one too, yeah.
2000, I want to say like 5.
For the 4th of July?
Yeah.
Like Burns Park had one back in the day as well. I went there and sat in the back of the truck and watched it.
Well, we
Again,
still,
I'm
you
not
and
saying I
we
have
gave them
any of
money,
the
so you
details
guys
fleshed
should.
out. It's just a quality of life item I'd like to see us undertake in some fashion, whether it's funding a private entity with a contribution or something else, I'm not sure. I'm wondering who else is with me in that initiative. That's all I'm asking.
I'm with it.
Fine looking at it.
I think it's very patriotic and inspirational.
What are you saying?
I'm scared of
Do it
fireworks,
this
so.
year, or for the city to come back, or the staff to come back with some recommendations and ideas?
I
about
think Dustin's
what are you saying?
volunteering to spearhead the investigative committee.
Happy to do so.
Dustin is throwing the fireworks show.
If I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna light them up. No.
Dustin and
there's
Kurt
a line
Warner.
item in here about supporting, I can't remember where the line item is. So I'd augment that line item to say more than just, we're happy to help if you have questions, and more a,
It's number 13,
thing.
so like second to the last page.
Encourage private
Yeah, so it says
Encourage
encourage
private
private development
Independence
for
Day
an
fireworks.
official Independence Day fireworks display.
I'm
I
just
mean, I don't know
saying.
that we even need more than that as far as a goal, but just a consensus from this council to say, yeah, we'd actually get behind that idea, since this is the only time we really legally have to talk about what do we want to do. So,
I'm just throwing it out there. I think there should be a parade too.
sweet.
Maybe you can get Rose.
I've never planned one of those before, Hannah. You want to give me one?
I know a lady.
And don't get
Hannah's volunteering for the parade.
Perfect. Dustin and Kurt
I'm off on
Warner
the
are doing
floor.
the fireworks.
So I guess I'm confused. What is the ask? Because I support the goal.
If this works, I
Moving it
can,
from encourage to facilitate in some capacity.
How about we add that to Danny's list? Of
I can just take on following up, because I can work with you and maybe see if it's something we want a subcommittee or like a subgroup to just do some work on, and I can talk with like Stephanie's staff and Jen and tourism and see like, is there something there?
And I think to Kelly's point, like, what do other people do?
Because I know, like, just talking with downtown Main Street, they have a company they hire who does that display, and so they have a cost structure and stuff, but we could at least get some numbers put together on what it would take to do one.
I think it's important too to know why we stopped.
That was the basis of my
So we
question.
don't, we don't start it again and go, this is why, this is why we don't do this.
Does anybody remember, does Waterloo
Was one of the issues.
Does Waterloo do their fireworks on the Saturday, or is it on the 4th?
So knowing what we
No, I
want
think
to
it's on
cover before
Saturday.
7,
Okay.
I'm gonna just ask, for this one, are you saying that we're keeping the language the same and the mayor's adding this to his project list? And right now, we're not adding anything to staff budget or project list right now?
That's fair.
If there's not a Strange Falls parade, I'll die. So I'm getting
So the
4th of
only
July.
question that I have there is I heard something about monetary.
Yeah.
And so if there's an interest, that's something that we have to know for the budget. So just,
But I heard two things. I heard first monetary, and then I also heard coming back and saying like, let's try to help them. So I'm trying to get you to land on what he's saying.
Well, I'm hearing from the group that they're not all about throwing dollars towards it,
Yeah.
but that they'd like to see it happen. So I recoiled from the, hey,
You're
let's pay for
back
it.
from the funding.
Well, and again, I can commit, like, I know the Waterloo one, it's the mayor's, like, Q goes and gets the sponsorships.
So Dan,
I'm not committing just right now to say
Okay.
I'll go get all
So
the.
you
said that pretty quick.
So you're
I'm saying
calling
that's
Kurt
how it's
Warner.
done. But I think we could, if we look at
So
it
you're
like
not
that.
budgeting for it, you're not putting it on a staff work plan
So-
right now, Danny's got it on his list.
the only other thing that, just to set expectations, things like this with the people that have these type of licenses and the type that you're looking at, I wouldn't be set that there's gonna be one this year. I mean,
Yeah.
I would think that that's probably going to be a 2025.
There
Yeah.
would be, Director Birdie, there'd be a safety consideration, directing traffic and all sorts of things related to
Whole
fireworks
plan.
displays, I would assume.
Let's do this, Sturgis.
You know, really, it would be, if you set off fireworks somewhere where you thought people could watch it from a car, then it's just figuring out where to do it. But if
Right.
it was some type of celebration where people were out, then there's a lot more to it, you know.
Yeah, if there's a parade involved or a
You know,
pony show.
standing
Okay,
line.
so we've got
Yes.
a recommendation for now? Okay, thank you. What was your other one?
The crisis intervention team. How do we work that in public safety? Crisis intervention, so somebody's in a mental health crisis or situations like that that don't require incarceration, how do we serve those marginalized folks a little better?
I think Dustin and I both had this on our
Yeah.
thing, and there was a great. I'm not trying to interrupt, but there was
No,
a
you
great
go.
piece that we. Did
Yeah.
you go to that thing
Yeah,
at the
MLA, yeah.
at the League
Not
of
MLA.
Cities?
League of Cities conference.
There's
yeah.
some folks. There's places already doing it in the Des Moines area, and
They're doing it here too. Craig?
well, no, I know we do. I know we
Article in
do
the
the
Courier.
Embrace or
Yeah, we work with Elevate.
Or,
We
yeah.
have a great partnership with
Embrace
them.
is better.
The difference is we don't have Elevate employees riding with police officers.
So there's a difference, because I know I'm very happy with what we have, but this is totally more in depth in the fact that they really were. But anyway, I would love to see if maybe can we have a discussion about this and maybe see if we can get the county, like this would be something maybe we can't do on our own but could we work with our area partners to, because the key was a designated officer
yeah.
and a designated licensed mental health licensed person to respond, and it was very well loved from
Yep.
those folks in the Polk County area.
No,
Love
it's a
it.
great idea.
Yeah.
And I do think that there will have to be coordination with other agencies to make it work as well as it should.
Yeah.
Waterloo went a step farther, and they did do a contract with Elevate, and so we could also do a look back and see how those couple years have went with them, and what should they have done more or less, but I do agree, a countywide effort is what makes the most sense, because geographically, a person can get across this county quickly, doesn't matter what community you're in.
And speaking to our state legislative priorities, this is something I know I'd like to talk about, is I think we should be working with the state to encourage, because just talking with Chief Howard, and a lot of our calls are mental health related, because we are not funding and supporting mental health support.
Correct.
So I think this is also a big conversation that maybe is part of our legislative
Craig, what
approach.
percentage of your officers have been through CIT?
Well, we're gonna get everybody through CIT, so right now, we're priority sitting at 70-80%. And when I say everybody, it's fire and police. Where everybody else in the county, they're still gonna move on and do their paramedics and their firemen. They haven't done them yet. So we're doing really well on the 1 week CIT, and everybody's been through the 2 or 3 day CIT. So we're going back through and doing the week long. So we do have a lot of CIT training.
So what is it that you're proposing?
So I think, yeah, the item is to investigate adding staff as needed or collaborating with a regional endeavor to dedicate staff to that need. I mean, I just
like to look at, for me, it's what are they doing down there that's working, and could we replicate it? So,
Danny, because there's some conversations we have with county social services. They're the funding body for mental health in this county.
And
So,
I think it'd be a good conversation with them. And I don't know, Craig, if you've had any conversations. Are you talking about Department of Health and?
nope, I'm talking.
Or Human Services?
The mental health region that we're in is funded through county social services. So
Okay.
help you with that.
So I guess I'd like to see at least some detail on what that plan looks like and how we can get it going.
So at this point, it's about instructing staff that this is something you'd like them to do some research around and bring back to council?
But not anything, do they want anything in the goal
But,
document?
yeah, so do you want
So I
that
would
added
think it
to
would fall under page 14, public safety objectives, if you want something in the goal document.
maybe like consider, I don't need to write it, you guys write it, something to better serve our communities.
Nailed it.
Mental health needs, or I don't even know how to say it, but not gonna go away.
Expand or.
So who can I
enhance
check?
Yes.
what we're doing.
Yes.
Well, Jen,
Yes.
Investigate options. Yeah.
Investigate options on,
Yep, staffing or contracting out, right, for crisis
Yeah.
intervention services, we'll put it under the public safety.
You do this for a living?
Not at all, haven't been doing it at all.
Options on crisis, so investigating options on crisis intervention, staffing or response options
Or partnership.
or partnerships.
Correct. You don't have any of that. right?
Beautiful.
Well, we work with Elevate, but no, we don't have anybody that writes.
But no other rights, right?
No.
So, Chris, if you're good, I'll probably just pull you then, and
Sorry.
maybe I'll probably pull you on
Yeah,
that
please.
then.
I have the book from that if anybody wants it.
Okay,
I
so
carry it in my.
adding this under public safety objectives,
yes.
can I see from everybody, because it's in addition to the goals?
Love it.
Okay, and is that enough, Ron, to have that
Yes,
for now?
I think we can.
Alrighty, what else?
Quick, we just went to like the last page, almost the last bullet point of this quality of life. There's just that list of consider potential for new quality of life projects. Eco Loop, campground, RV park in Northern Cedar Falls, trail connection, pickleball courts, Birdsall Park renovations, historic reconnaissance. This is, I think, it seems like just been a dumping ground previously of like just here's things that we want to make sure are written down somewhere for consideration. Ron, I don't know if there's anything you'd like us to do with this, or if this is where we want to add some things if people have
So
projects they're interested in.
If you look at your one document, I think a number of these are going to fall in the unfunded. So, you know, it's how much of a priority are these items that you would like to see moved up or investigated or?
Have we ever really had a big thing about the Eco Loop? I mean, I don't need a big thing today, but it's like, I feel kind of in the dark on that, and that is not one I get excited about, and I am a outdoorsy person, so just to have that out there. That's low on my priority list.
Kel, do you recall last year, were these items that added in bulk?
I think that was I think Mayor Green was maybe the eco.
Yeah, because he was the
person.
eco loop, and that was kind of a walking trail along the river.
Right, from the
From Tourist Park
yeah,
over
disc golf park to.
So I walked that this week because trying to think if we can connect Tourist Park to Gateway as a part of that. I'm not looking at the whole eco loop thing, but, and I did a little research on if we could get a donated bridge from the DOT. There's some out there. I don't know how legit this is, but, you know, because it would need a bridge over Stag Creek is certainly a big part of that. But, you know, it's right in there with the line above it on the Cedar City campground on that. So
I'm not saying I hate it. I'm just saying of all the things that I dream about funding, that is low on my list.
Well, honestly, a lot of these
Well, that would
projects, I
add-
feel like it's part of the master plan, the parks master plan.
Yes.
This is probably going to get worked into that
And-
document.
I think to answer your initial question, yes, these were kind of the catch-all so that they were written down somewhere, so that we could put more flesh on those bones later. The trail connection one, you know, since the railroad grant didn't come through last year and the sale of that railroad is up for debate, I don't know how relevant that one is, but it's simply consider the potential. But we could strike some if we think they're irrelevant or no longer needed.
So many of these may be opportunity as well.
Right.
You know,
I'm
so
okay with
so
leaving
for
it.
instance, the trail connection, if we're preparing to submit the grant again this year, and if that comes through, you know, the trail connection come to fruition, to the eco loop, or at least a portion of that could be something that comes if there's grant opportunities out there. But we would probably have to, with that one, probably have to do quite a bit more work to get us to a point where we're eligible or ready for grant submittals.
So I feel like that would make more sense to talk about with the development
Yeah.
of the river along
Yeah.
that section.
And like, could that be in the park? I mean, I know it's not a park, but it is part of recreation. It's like, can they figure out if that's something that's even
what are you talking about, Tom?
right now? I'm talking about the eco loop because I believe that's the little thing from when I was at the disc golf course that if I wanted to get over to Gateway Park, right? That's what we're talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And kind of that whole area, I mean, the river project's gonna get done and people are gonna show up and they'll have a parking lot and obviously downtown, but where are they gonna camp? Where are they gonna hike? And the rest of the things that people that are into kayaking and boating and river and, you know.
River.
let's-
So the family members are not in the water.
Yeah. It might be a good idea to have that strolling loop.
So what's the question that you're trying to answer?
So I think the question right
Great
now is, do
question.
we just want to leave these?
Sure.
So to Kelly's
Yeah.
point, maybe what we can do is with the eco loop is have them look at that trail connection, at least that portion of it with the parks master plan as that comes up. Just,
From
Well-
Tours to Gateway, that part of the.
yeah, kind of the sketch you gave me that stretch.
And it's like pickleball courts. Is that just like in general, like more?
Yeah, see,
I think
that's,
so, yes.
yeah, because we've built some. Or in the process.
Is
of
that
building
done?
some.
They want to build more?
It's not coming to that yet.
So that'll be we'll be working on a lot of that next year.
Okay.
We're gonna check
There's
a
a
lot
lot,
of stuff
and we're
off.
doubling it at Orchard, and then there could be other areas of opportunity.
North Cedar is.
There's no
not
harm in
dangerous.
leaving them, but
Yeah.
I think Danny's right, they need more. Part of me wonders, I mean, even with the goal document, sometimes there's lines that are just in regular text because we didn't touch on them during our goal setting sessions. It'd be good for each of us to kind of pull this out throughout the year and say, you know, if I was writing this document, I'd do this differently. And then maybe have a follow on for next year's goal setting to say, let's restructure what we need to, and refine those pieces that aren't necessary and maybe add more.
We've talked about a quarterly or semi-annual review of this, right?
Right. And I think as we this year talk about,
I think that's important.
yeah, I think as we talk this year about that strategic planning piece and stuff, we can maybe clean up some of what's just bulk put in here.
I would be in favor.
So I think if everyone's good with it, we'll just leave it for now.
Right.
Clean up through this year. Okay.
So,
Okay.
the comment, several meetings now, of a semi-annual review of goal setting document. We want to put that on our wish list.
I think I've got that on my list of things that I'll be making sure.
Once we wrap up 5, then those are some things that's why I'm pushing us to, because some of these pieces about how you want to manage moving forward is really important. And that's one of those.
I would either, Daryl, don't lose that thought.
Right.
So
I just want to check on goal 5 then.
Good.
Or do
Are
it
we-
quarterly.
I'm good on goal 5.
Good on goal 5.
Anybody, I mean, we're asking if anybody wanted to add any of their
Right,
personal
if
items.
there's anything else for adding to goal 5,
Who wanted
because
the
then we
skate
want to
park?
move to that point, Daryl.
You don't want to talk about it tonight?
Well, there's a line in the budget in the CIP right now for the future. It says relocation of the current skate park, which I would not recommend relocation of the current skate park. Would probably a new one, but I think that will fall into the parks master
Yeah.
plan. So
I have that.
Yep, and I will, like, regardless throughout the year, I'll make sure and keep this so I know, like, even if it didn't get talked about in this, I'll keep up with everyone on, hey, this came up and this might be able to hit that point you talked about.
Okay, so I just want us to land on 5. Anything else that you want to add for 5? Going, gone. Okay. Now, to Gerald, to your point, there's several items. So we've got the list of work session items. We've got the timing of how that fits, as well as planning some different pieces around that. So do you want to take that?
Yeah, so to close out, we did want to make sure, looking at the first quarter of this year, we know kind of what we want to get prioritized. This is the current list of all the work session things we had talked about, because we didn't really have any work sessions.
We added one today.
What was the one tonight?
In terms of joint work with, joint session with Housing Commission.
That's right.
But those are meant to go throughout the whole year.
So, wait, so this is.
Oh, which one do you want?
Stop.
This one?
Yeah, so, sorry, I'm getting punchy here. So, we've been capturing what you've identified during the sessions. These are the ones you've identified along with them tonight. Overall.
And yes, to answer your question, these were kind of just throughout the whole year. So if you want to go to the next slide quick. So for tonight, we wanted to just look at, okay, for our first quarter of this year, here's all the council meetings we have. And had staff put in the things on this list are the things the staff knows they're going to have come up that they're going to need our feedback on. So we need to slot in then, when do we want to prioritize some of these conversations? I know it sounded like College Hill was one that we wanted to get to as soon as possible. So I was thinking January 16th for sitting down and talking through that. And these are all the things staff just put up when this would be best. We can move things around if we need to and check with staff.
I'd say that the only ones that are kind of firm are budget related.
Sure.
Yeah, the CIP and the budget, I think, were the two big ones.
Is the animal control budget related?
So animal control is not necessarily budget related, but it is timing, because our current contract runs out January 11th, and we actually just met and trying to meet with the Humane Society and try to get some possible path forwards for the council.
Okay.
Is there a problem with what we have? Because they seem to be pretty responsive to haul dead animals, but
So our contract's with the city of Waterloo, and Craig, correct me if I'm wrong, but our current contract's like $85,000, and city of Waterloo, to extend it, would like to go to $600,000.
And
do less work.
Do less work.
well, I can drag.
So that's a whole
dead-
different
I can
conversation.
drag dead deer off the right of way.
Daryl started a new business for
Hey, we wrote that down. We got Daryl.
I'll partner with you, man. I've got a dump trailer.
You've got a truck.
We got volunteers that clear trees.
I got a nylon rope and tie around the ankle and drag them out in the. It'll be done.
So anyway, yes, that one's rather firm.
That's what we do. Isn't that the way you do it?
And so just so you know, the timeline, we've got, Daryl, you were asking this earlier of work sessions. From talking with everyone, I think everyone would like to keep work sessions before council meetings.
Sure.
And only schedule special ones if we ever really feel there's something we need to talk about. So we have usually from 5:15 to 7 is that before council time.
Committee or work.
Yeah, so we've got about an hour 45 to play with. So we've got 60 minutes on CIP presentation, our first meeting January 2nd. January 16th, then we could fit in some time for the College Hill Vision Plan, at least to start sitting down, talking through it. And
Sorry to interrupt, Danny, did you say our animal control contract's up prior to our discussion on it on the 16th?
It is, but we're already working on contingencies, and we'll still be able to work with the Humane Society and with Public Works, so we do have a plan.
So they just won't be responding. We'll be able to cover it. It's just, we
Craig.
want to give you more of a
Carol for that
formal
week.
plan. Yeah.
And
Craig,
Joe,
what in the world justifies going from 85 to 600?
It was really them just kind of restructuring what they're gonna charge and the things they're gonna do and not do. And so then, we worked with the city attorney, and then they said they want out, then, you know.
And I
They
did
saw
get-
how they billed us on the emergency management, went, well,
And I did hear,
that was easy. It worked there. It worked there. That was easy.
I did hear some piece from talking with Mayor Hart that they haven't been billing what the cost is, so part of it is increasing it to actually what some of the costs are.
We're gonna add some staff, add some, upgrade some vehicles, and, and pass those costs along.
I
Okay, so
think
we're
within
not
the-
having that work session now.
Yeah, correct. This is not the work session on animal control.
Well, okay, so we can keep it on the 16th and we're covered, but, okay.
Plenty of opportunity to talk about that on the 16th.
So I was thinking maybe the 16th is if we could make an hour for some work time on College Hill. We'll have a little bit of time there then, and that would be a work session, which get your guys' consensus on is what I'm envisioning for work sessions is the front conference room, so right outside of the chambers. Still recorded, and I've talked with Ron, we're gonna get some better audio recording in there, so we've got really good solid audio so people can feel that they're hearing that. We've talked about maybe videotaping them. So just what would you guys think for a general format of, for now, let's just get in that front conference room, around the table, still open to public, still public meeting, record the audio just like this, and then we can formalize that more if we want to look
Well,
at
it's
adding.
important that we have microphones to get good official recording so everybody can hear everybody.
And thing I've looked at is the multi-microphone ones that sit around the table, so you're capturing the audio from around the whole room instead of
Those
our
little
one.
triangular things that look
Yep.
like Georgetown leftover things.
So just to use that night as a case example, would be work session in that front room, and then we could go into the chambers, set up for getting a presentation probably from city staff on that, but that's how I would envision the work sessions going forward is that front conference room.
So everybody's good with that for starting with that?
Yeah.
Great.
Okay. And then I also heard you say specifically adding College Hill to the 16th.
Yep,
Okay.
for probably 60 minutes. Everyone's good with that?
Great.
And do you want to jump back to the slide with the list?
What
So-
about quarterly review of the goal setting?
What was that?
Quarterly reviewing the goal setting.
And that was one I was thinking we could plan for kind of toward the end of that first quarter. And
Just
then
a
do
thought
the
on-
same of what are some of the things we have coming up the next quarter that we would
Just a
want to.
thought on that, we could grab one goal for the first quarter and then goal 2 and 3 for the second quarter, and whatever, space it out so we review them. And then these sessions at the end of the year, end of the year, don't have to be 5 days.
True.
When I think next year will be, I think with 4 new elected officials, this was a little bit extenuated just because of that, but yeah, I would agree.
I do like the shorter, the
Yeah.
3 hours as opposed to, because
6
towards
to
the
5.
end of a 5 to 6 hour night, people aren't paying attention.
So I just want to check the piece in terms of quarterly, we don't necessarily have to do the dates right now, but quarterly review, coming back to the goal-setting document and a quarterly review, is that something that people are wanting to see built into the schedule?
Yes.
Okay. So the specifics you'll work on in terms of
Yeah.
scheduling, but.
But for now, is there anything on this list that everyone here would like to make sure we get prioritized? Getting in sooner, later, making sure we get it in this first quarter? And then we talked about the one that's not on that list is the joint session with the Housing Commission to dig in more in detail. And that one, it sounds like, is one we probably want to get to sooner than later.
Ron, where would you say we sit on prioritizing the wage and benefit discussion? Is that something that you have a longer timetable estimated, or?
It depends on what, if we're looking at going back, and we talked about this, and this body agreed that moving forward with having a consultant kind of do that and being able to tell you where that compared. I think that's when we would do that, is bringing the results of that back. Bringing the contract forward would be the first step, and then.
Do we have a goal to get a contract sooner than later so that we can get that in?
Jen, what is it? So it's in the 25 budget, right?
We would have to put it in the 25 budget,
So-
which would really be till after July 1st. But I mean, if people really wanted to get it done sooner, in FY '24, we could look at a budget.
Well, I'm fine with 25, I just like to see it in front half.
Yeah, okay. All right.
So Chris, I'm hearing you say.
Front half
time
of
that
25
one.
to have that so that we can do the work session.
Yeah, okay.
So Ron, did I hear you or Danny say that this is for the first quarter?
Yeah, if I go back here, you see kind of the dates there, gets us out to about April 1st with,
Well, that's 7 items, the other list had 9.
So again, going back to here, this is the stuff that we think is kind of the backbone that we
That
need
we
these.
need to do.
But if you see, this is 60 minutes, we may be able to.
Okay.
So maybe this is a good question for this group. So before, what always kind of was a sticking line for us is try not to start committee meetings before 5:15. Just because the professionals that are working, is that still what we
Yes.
really want to? So if we're looking at that, so usually you're looking at about an hour 45 then to go ahead and for those. So then what we would do is we would take that list and kind of fill in the gaps as we go.
Well, if we run over, then we push the council meeting to a later start. It just depends what's on the agenda for the council meeting.
Sure.
I mean, it
Absolutely.
could go hours, it could go 45 minutes.
I don't think we should move the time of the council.
We have.
We have.
Well,
We
he's
can.
just talking about,
If a topic.
Yeah, if we had
If
to.
a topic takes longer,
But it's the public notice where it starts at 7.
I know.
I do think good practice, you're right, we should make sure to try and keep the meetings on time. And I think like College Hill, the 1 hour that night is not going to get us through that.
Yeah.
That'll just be a starting point, so I think we'll just keep that to an hour.
And then maybe we could slot it in on March 4th,
Yep, and then we could have a next follow-up.
part 2.
And because we will have, I think, January 16th, probably an executive session, because we'll always have that after the council meetings.
So we've got some pressing stuff for January 2nd, which will be some legal updates that Kevin's going to provide an executive session on January 2nd. January 16th, there'll be another executive session. So kind of catching you at both ends of the council meeting before and after.
And so also want to make sure to not burn you guys out.
no,
Knowing we'll
let's
have.
just dig in.
Never. So
As far as tonight goes, the one question Danny was asking is, anything else that's really rising to the top that we need to know about? So like College Hill, definitely. Anything else? We heard the staffing piece, let's make sure the timing of that is there. So that was one question. And then the other piece in terms of processes, as you're doing your quarterly reviews, coming back and looking at this list and then having that quarter schedule so that you're starting to see
Sure. That can be
when
part
things
of-
are coming out. But at one point we had talked about actually like laying that out, but that would have just been an exercise in guessing. So more than anything, that'll be rolling out throughout the year based on the timeline of the projects and what's happening.
I
It's
think the
something
other
you can
thing
check in.
that we just need to leave a little capacity in there for is, we all know that there's going to be other topics that come
Yeah.
up throughout the course of.
I'd be curious if all the things in the previous year that we said we're going to talk about a goal setting, did we talk about a goal setting? Is there a list?
So here's how I respond to that, Daryl, is when I have something, or when somebody says that's a great goal setting thing, I have a note on my refrigerator and in my phone that I constantly am typing myself notes so that I am assuring myself that I make sure to follow up with at goal setting. That's just what I do. Maybe that's not the best practice, but
From staff, what we've done is the
Have a
yellow.
refrigerator with sticky notes on it.
So everybody always, so very similar to Kelly, but I open my CIP book and write down what we're, and I think from staff, what would illustrate that is the yellow. These are what all of the different departments said, hey, these are the things we said we were gonna talk about.
And we did go through
And we did
some of
look
the
at last
past
year's, because
ones.
they were in the notes from last year. We did
Yep.
look at that when we were going through. And I think we looked at all of those had come through in terms of the work sessions throughout the year. You'll have this list, and again, that'll be up to you all to be taking a look at this and saying, where is it and how's it fitting into your plan? So I think part of this is also moving this into this place of transparency with you to be managing that in these quarterly meetings, right?
Because this is where I'd say if there's any other priority, let me know now and we'll make sure and get it in sooner. Otherwise, I'll just slot them in as they seem to make sense and when they're most appropriate. And then, like I said, each quarter we can look at, okay, is there something that's come up that we want to make sure and get in this next quarter? But kind of going back to you guys, when look at me as the quarterback, just trying to make sure, keeping everything in track with what you guys would like to see work done over this year.
Great.
Okay.
So we want to land it today with feeling like, one, you've had a chance to, anything that's still top of mind that was a project or an item, that you've had a chance to name that. And then two, that you have that there's some clarity around what's happening next and some of the process pieces that you've named, there's been forward movement with that.
What's your plan for defining, adopting, receiving, and filing, all that stuff? When are you going to tell us that?
So I would like to, at that first College Hill planning session, to come to a technical agreement on what do we know that receiving and filing means and what does adopting mean. Just so that way we know when we have future plans that come up, we're on the same page about what we're doing with them. So I figured that first night I'll probably, because I've been talking with staff on, okay, how does staff perceive what each of those mean? I'm talking with some of you guys and how you perceive them. So I'll probably just come with 2 written versions of here's what receiving and filing means, because I think getting that set would help a lot with just those future issues that comes up when we have something that's a plan that's done. What does it mean? Like the parking study. When we receive and file or adopt that, what does that mean? And
I think that was a hanging piece. Thanks for giving that clearly. Okay.
thank you.
Anything else that's hanging that we haven't at least put into a timeline or box for now?
It's 7 o'clock.
Anybody regretting running?
Okay, ready to adjourn? The session 5 of the city council goal setting.
Are you gonna do a zippity-doo-dah?
If you want.
Actually, do we need a motion to adjourn?
Hear ye, hear ye.
No, it's just
Yo, we are ending your special meeting.